I had another kid, went to a D1 school, left out of high school with a 425 bench, came back with a 345 bench. I've never had a kid go to college and come back stronger or faster.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, Jared, you've been training and coaching since you were like 6, right? So we're going to go over your origin story. But before that, I got a pull quote from you that I think would be a good jumping off point. And that is, what good is squatting in a house if you cannot jump over a doormat? So you want to expand on that one real quick? Then we'll get into your background.
Yeah, when I had said that, I was just meaning that you get a lot of these athletes, because I deal with mainly athletes, and everything I talk about today will be athletic performance, speed, and the short term instead of this track stuff. So you'll get some people that are really strong. Like I'll get kids at the gym that will try to ego lift. I'm not impressed by how much you lift. I'm just impressed as that lift, it's transferring to what we need it to transfer to. Mm-hmm. And so you'll get some kids that are really strong, but yet they can't move or, like I said, jump over a doormat, because they don't have the rate of force development. They got the absolute side of it, but they got this one side of the strength curve and they don't have the other side.
So how were you first introduced? I mean, it says I have here in the 6th grade. So
that's when I started working out. And it was probably even prior to that. I was at my brother's friend's house and was watching Rocky. So I was watching Rocky 4. And when I watched the movie, I didn't watch it. I just was at the house and I caught clips of it. And that's when Apollo died. Mm-hmm. And then so after Apollo died, that's when Rocky kind of locked in and started going and training. And the way he trained was much harder. So for me to get better, because I was not always very athletic, but I thought if you could work at it, you can change who you are. Mm-hmm. And so then you saw Rocky and how he started working. And growing up, I had to split wood with my parents. So, mm-hmm. And that's kind of into film and stuff. And then you're growing up in this age where you got Popeye, you got Arnold still pretty big at the time. And so that's kind of what rolled me into it.
What sports were you participating in at the time?
Football and baseball.
Okay, so that would have been right before junior high, right?
Yeah. So I played in 4th and 5th grade football. Then I didn't play in 6th grade, and my mom wouldn't let me play in 7th grade. She said she didn't want me to get hurt. And so I started working out in 6th grade. And just like every other kid, my mom and dad bought me this universal gym thing, and they thought I would never use it. And so I actually wore the pulleys off of it.
So so it wasn't like the plastic barbells. It was like one of the Bowflex type stupid things.
Yeah, it kind of had cables. It was, that was before Bowflex came out, I think. And it just had like, the weights were still sand because they slid up in things. It's almost like an 8-stack jungle or something like that. Mm-hmm. Except for they were plastic filled and it kind of caught and did things. My routine is I would bench, I do pec fly, I do lat pull down, leg extension, wrist curls on it, and I'd move over here, do abs, and I'd go do dips, hanging leg raises, squat, then I'd go run a mile, and I did that every day. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know what I was doing, and sometimes I wish I didn't know what I was doing now, because my fault now is I know how to get stronger, and I know how to get stronger at a quick rate to where I break down a lot more. And if I would just go in the gym and play around like I did when I was younger, I'd be a lot better off. But
so how'd that change through high school?
It really didn't change through high school. I just kept, by the time I got to 8th grade, I finally, I guess, earned my mom and dad's rights to get me some free weights. And so then I started benching with a bar. Still didn't squat very much, didn't have a squat rack, and they wouldn't buy me a squat rack. So mm-hmm. I just kind of grew up benching and military pressing. And by the time 9th grade came, I think I had a 205 bench in 9th grade. My 10th grade year I had a 250 bench. And what started triggering stuff, my junior year, I went from 205 to 250. And the next year I benched 275. So my bench only went up 25 pounds in a year. And I worked out every day. I worked out all the time. Like, how in the hell am I working out and not getting any stronger? And so then my physics teacher, I was kind of known as the person at school that kind of liked to work out all the time. And so my physics teacher introduced me to Ben Green. He's an Olympic lifting coach. He coached 2 Olympians and 2 national championship teams. He trained him and John Coffey were tight. Mm-hmm. And so at that time, they had trained the only overall world champion in the 1990s, which was Robin Goode. And so I worked out with Tommy Inglesby. He was part of World's Strongest Man, and Dean Goad. And I can't remember some of the other guys' names. But so once we started introducing me to Ben Green, I started doing all the Olympic lifts.
No, with them, or how's that working? You're after school going to train with them?
So I would work out at school.
Yeah.
Oh, because I played football. So they manipulated it to where you had to work out all the time. But I've tried to study this stuff since about the 6th grade. But the only thing you had available there was Muscle Mag, Iron Man magazine, or Flex. Mm-hmm. So it was all bodybuilding oriented. So I didn't really know a whole lot besides, hey, just kind of follow these guys' routine. Had the old Arnold encyclopedia with the yellow book before the black one came out. And so I would just try to read. I would watch Lee Haney videos. Totally awesome, where he was talking. Mm-hmm. He was actually, that was the first time I've heard someone actually try to teach stuff, how he did the pec flies and talking about putting a board under your heels when you squatted and things like that. And so that was kind of my middle school years of learning to get up to high school. And so by the time I got to Ben Green, I think I had like a 315 bench or 260, somewhere I can't quite remember. I know 275 was the junior year, so 275. So he took me from 275 to 315. And so when training with Ben was the first time we did that Russian squat routine, 6'2", 6'3", 6'2", 6'4" type thing. And so that's the first time in my head I got implanted that I have to hit these numbers on this day or I'm not going to get better. Instead of just kind of going in and mindlessly going about, hey, I'm going to go squat. I don't know how many sets and reps I'm going to do today. And so that was the first time I've ever saw like a routine.
Well, how was the Olympic lifts implemented into the program then? Because that's a big change from what you were doing.
I would just go do them after school with him because I wanted to get better at power clean. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't necessarily going to be an Olympic lifter. He wanted me to compete with it. And so we would do snatches, we would do front squats, we would do back squats, and we'd do work on cleans and just do a lot of that stuff. And I can't really remember how it was regimented. I know we'd do the snatches first, we'd do the cleans, and then at the end of the day, we'd squat.
So okay. Because for a second there, I was thinking you were doing the squat with while you're in school with the football team and then doing the Olympic lifts later.
I was.
Okay. That's what it sounded like. So you're doing a split routine.
Yeah. So I was basically getting bodybuilding work, almost like the repetition method work at school. Then I was going to get more of the specialized dynamic effort because the Olympic lifting is more dynamic effort, but I was still missing the absolute side of the puzzle piece.
So then what inspired you to further your education through college in this field?
I didn't even know there was such thing as exercise science. And so when I went to college, I went to play football. And I had no clue about what I wanted to do. All I know, I was a football player. Mm-hmm. And so all I just wanted to do was just play football, and I didn't care about, but I was always regimented. So if Monday was my bench day, if Tuesday was my squat day, I needed to go bench or squat on that particular day. And so I was pretty hard. I did not miss. And if I missed, everybody around me was miserable. I would even threaten my roommates, you're going to come spot me today. And so I was walking around campus. I went to the University of Memphis. So where I got my exercise science degree from, but I didn't know that at the time I was doing this. It was bench day, so our football facilities were closed. Couldn't work out there. I went to our campus recreation center, closed. I went to our guys basketball. Memphis basketball's got their own facility, football and other sports, and so I couldn't find anything there. So then I went on campus to where the girls basketball team did stuff, and there was a gym there. And so I walked around the gym. Ended up walking downstairs, and this guy I played football with, he came out of this room, and I looked in there, it had a rack. I said, I need to go lift. He said, you can't. I said, there's a rack in there. He said, no, Bidne, you don't understand. You can't go in there. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's a lab. I said, what do you mean a lab? He said, exercise science lab. And so that next week, I went and changed my major to exercise science because I never had a clue it existed. And so, Chris Moore was the guy that walked out of that exercise science lab. He passed away about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so he's the one that introduced me to Louis because he would always say, Bidne, quit bodybuilding. Like, what the hell you mean? By this time, I was about 205, 210 pounds with a 365 bench. And so I had a 300, 315 power clean, 300, 315, somewhere in there. And so Ben Green really helped me because that's what they care about in college is the Olympic lifts. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I wanted to be, if I felt I was good at everything, I'd eventually be good at my sport itself. And so
at what point did you, I don't want to say realize, because you always knew that the training was helping your sport, right? But at what point throughout college did you realize that, because you're almost treating them like two separate entities. Like, I'm going to bench even if it is like a primary skill day on the field, fuck the skill day. It's my bench day.
Yeah.
You know, at what point did you realize these all work together?
probably after I got out of college.
Really? Wow.
It's because
I'm only saying that because that should kind of be part of the curriculum.
yeah.
Is this does integrate with this?
Yeah. And I think the college stuff where they teach exercise science, they're not teaching the levels of muscular tension. They're not teaching maximum effort. They're not still teaching these things today. Like I said earlier, I had a guy there's a kid I used to train in high school. He went from not playing at all to having the most throws on his team by a junior to actually getting a D1 scholarship to go pitch. And now is actually pitched and opened up against Alabama and Auburn and some of your major SEC baseball schools. So a kid that went from almost nothing became something because the stuff what we were doing was actually transferring. And it took years of me looking at stuff and trying to make sure, because what I do at the gym is I measure everybody on a monthly basis so I can see what does and what does not work. And we don't do a whole lot of different exercises. I got to figure out the minimum effective dosage. What is the least amount of things I can do to get this result over here? Because if you throw too many variables in, you're not going to figure anything out. Because at the end of the month, I'm going to test you on your jumping ability, I'm going to test you on your sprinting ability, and I'm going to test you on your strength. And over time, what we found is bench press will help also with throwing speed to a point. You know, it will also help with swing speed. So swing speed and bench press are really highly correlated, whether it be golf, lacrosse, or baseball. And so if you see someone's bench improving, and if I'm tracking swing speed on this person and I'm seeing their bench go up 10 to 15 pounds per month, and you could see, I don't know if I've got that guy's information in here, but he went up 12 miles an hour in swing speed in off season. And so once you start seeing that, and I had a lacrosse team, and the girl who benched the most on the lacrosse team also threw the ball the fastest. And also the girl who had the least amount of throwing velocity also benched the least. And also the people who improved their lacrosse throwing skill the most also had the most improvement on their bench press.
Why do you think that's super interesting? Thank you for that. Why do you think then there's such reservation or kind of negativity towards the bench press within the sports training for those? Because I know from talking with coaches or athletes who are like pitchers or cricket bowlers, for example, like they will avoid the bench press like it's the plague for various reasons. So why do you think that is?
I think most people don't know how to teach the bench press. And so if you don't know how to teach it, you're just kind of going off of what you've seen before. So I think even if I get kids that come back, they're not really teaching the bench press. They're not teaching them how to get their shoulders up on them. You know, the more you arch, the less stress goes on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And so the more you can become more of an arm dominant bencher, and the more arm dominant bencher you are, the triceps accelerates the arm and initiates acceleration of throwing an overhead implement, whether it be a baseball, a football, even swinging a tennis racket.
Sure.
And so if you look at the muscles involved in overhead throwing, you got your pec major, you got your serratus anterior, you got your delts, your rotator cuff muscles, and you also got your biceps. So your biceps, your rotator cuff muscle, your pec major, and your serratus anterior all involved when you bench press anyway.
Sure.
And so if you strengthen all those muscles to coordinate and utilize each other together, you're going to get a better transfer of throwing of baseball and sport.
Do you find that the bench press has a better or more direct effect on those capacities than, say, like a military press or a floor press, or like, does the bench press seem to be the best variation?
Yes, just because the military press, like when we're doing our programming, I don't program the military press because most people naturally are stronger in their shoulders. So then I'm not able to utilize the triceps. So I got to get the triceps to override the shoulders at one point.
Sure.
And so if I can do that, then they can start learning how to use their arms greater.
I want to spin it back real quick just to the college exercise science thing, because do you still speak with people that are going through exercise science now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I wrote down, what kind of hit me as we were speaking are the things that we're talking about, would that be or taught at a master's level? Because the exercise science has to cover anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, and each one of those are going to have a level 1, level 2, level 3. So you start adding all these classes, which you took, right? Which you take all those classes, and then you add in the electives for whatever reason they have the electives. Is there even room? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would think they'd mix it in with exercise physiology, even if it has to do maybe even biomechanics. So you got to have exercise phys 1 and 2, and you got sometimes colleges got biomechanics. We even had to take swim class at Memphis. My swim class could have been substituted for something that taught different levels of muscular tension. Science and practice strength training are still not on the shelves of the things. And one of my old professors at Memphis, Andy Fry, his name's now on the cover of the Science and Practice Strength Training of this latest edition. And so he was big into, that's where I got lucky being at Memphis. Is like University of Georgia, they do exercise science, but it's going to be more toward exercising people that may have been paralyzed, because the Dr. Gary that used to be at Georgia at the time, he was paralyzed in a car accident. So he spent all of his focus on trying to help people that's been injured. So exercise science, depending on which direction you're going, like you said, the undergrad's going to be more, they got to get these people ready for either a physical therapy school. They got to get them ready for nursing. They're not getting ready to go do sports training. So they're trying to have a more broad spectrum of hey, let's give everybody this base level of education. Then if you want the next step, you may be right with the master's. But when I started the master's program and I didn't finish it, is that the same stuff was being just repeated, just different course number. And so I was like, that's terrible. And so to me, there's no point in paying more if you're getting the same thing.
No, I understand that. I mean, it's because the debate that goes on now is it even necessary? If the cost was the same as when I went, yes, but now the cost is, twice as high, because what we end up with is a lot of people don't even have basic understandings of biomechanics, physiology, anatomy, and stuff like that. And you can get by with that to a certain point, but when you want to start digging deeper into other sources, you're not going to understand shit. Yeah. Because you have like with strength, you have no base. There's no base knowledge. And that's the stuff that most people don't want to go look and read to try to understand. They want to go to the higher level stuff and kind of like cherry pick.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people go. That cherry picking is what gets everybody in trouble, because they're not really finding out what does or what does not work. They're almost like, when you first start off in the industry, it's almost like you're kind of doing whatever's fatty at the time, because you don't really you've not really developed your system yet to where you're figuring out what transfers or what does not transfer for whatever desired result you're trying to get out of it.
So if there's going to be people who are listening to this now who are going through that kind of educational process now. So in your opinion, like, what are the topics that are maybe the holes that are missing in those types of courses that these people should be self-studying to kind of get them ahead of the curve and not get caught in the fads, as you say?
I think the biggest thing that people need to learn is levels of muscular tension.
Okay. And what do you mean by, so, just lay that out. What does that mean if someone doesn't understand that?
You want your maximum effort, brief maximum tension. You got to have that side of the strength curve, which is 85% plus. Then you got to have your speed strength, which is your rate of force development exercise. That's around 20%. And then you got to have your repetition method, which is more your bodybuilding things. So if you got max speed and max strength, but you don't have that repeated effort method to increase kind of hypertrophy or muscular size, you've got a huge engine, but a small frame in the middle. So once you're going so fast with so much power, you're going to break down because you don't have the structure, which I would call hypertrophy training, is kind of the structure that holds the two other end pieces together, because you got speed strength or rate of force development or dynamic effort method. I guess everything kind of gets so confused, because speed strength and dynamic effort method is the same thing. And this aimed toward improving rate of force development. Yes. So then you got where I use brief maximum tension, which is a sub method of the maximum effort method, and which is 3 to 5 reps. And because the maximum effort is 1 to 3. And so I deal with kids as far as 8 all the way to professional athletes. And depending on what goal I need to get that done is kind of how I choose it. So bottom line is most of my people have low training age.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't handle the high maximum effort method. We're like Louis, when early 2000s, I think he was still doing 1 to 3 reps for maximum effort day. And as his athletes got older and stronger, then he said, no, a max is 1. Mm-hmm. So he changed over time, but so did the training age of everybody that you're working with and training with. And so if I can use the brief maximum tension, which still gives me the same neuromuscular output, I get optimal discharge frequency of my motor neurons with the brief maximum tension on these lower training age kids.
Yeah, sure.
And so, and I say 3 to 5, and we are failing 3 to 5 reps. We're giving true maximum effort.
Sure.
So if I say a set of 5, or if I have a kid do a set of 5, I have it on my phone. I had a kid, this is kind of where it gets frustrating for me. I sent hundreds. I think someone said I've had over 200 and something D1 athletes come out of the gym. And it may be more, but I just have everything written down on paper. I don't have it on computer. So I had an actual intern this past year come in. Jared, you need to put this shit. You got so much stuff here because I've got everything written down. So I had this kid, send him off to a D1 school. He was doing 250 on bench. He went 5.544. Okay. To me, he failed. So that's utilizing that. So if I'm not making them fail within a certain range, I'm not really doing what I'm saying I'm doing with the brief maximum tension stuff. But the whole thing is he went to college, this D1 football program, and he came back, and I had him try to do 225, and he went 4.322. But to me, that's a disservice because that kid's down that much strength level. I had another kid went to a school, a D1 school football national championship team, left out of high school with a 425 bench, came back with a 345 bench. I'm seeing significant drops, and I've never had a kid go to college and come back stronger or faster.
Wow.
And they're doing, and I don't know how to, that's the Olympic lifting. A lot of these college programs have this Olympic lifting stuff in there, and the Olympic lifting stuff is not helping these athletes like everybody else. They're trying to make these power cleans the end all be all exercise. Mm-hmm. You know, I was trained on them through high school and stuff. So I've trained with people that have learned how to teach it, but this is kind of where stuff goes wrong too, is when I was at Memphis, I was taught by Ben Green and I knew how to do the Olympic lifts. And I was Gail Hatch out of Baton Rouge, you know. So anyway, I had some other guys on the football team that there was a Baton Rouge or New Orleans coach. I think his name was Gail Hatch. And so you had me and them, we knew how to do it and what it should look like. And so what happens is if once you get to the college level, people are most of the time going to be a coach. Mm-hmm. Whether it be, I am going to be offensive line coach, I'm going to be a running back coach. It's more coaches than strength and conditioning coaches out of a football team. So when you're on a football team, you only got the small window of people that really like the strength and conditioning stuff because you got a lot of people on the team that don't even like it. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is I was always involved in the weight room stuff. I was heavily involved in exercise science lab, and I could do the Olympic lifts. And so I went to get my USAW certification for the Olympic lifts. And the guy I went with, he was a GA, and I was still just an undergrad athlete. And so we went to the same course, and the way he would do them, he'd pick his feet up and slam his feet down. Well, you're not getting triple extension if you're flexing in the air, so you can't put force in the ground if your feet are coming off because you have nothing to push against. And so it was a 2-day course, I believe, and after 2 days, that the course instructor said, "I will not pass you unless you do it the right way." And so because he's competing against me, but no one wants to look like an ass and have different knowledge, so no one wanted to tell me that I was right. Well, I didn't give a shit if I was right or not. I just wanted it to be done right.
Sure. And
so at the end of the day, he passed the test by performing the lifts correctly in front of the instructor. So pass, go back to Memphis. Well, guess what? Guess how he started teaching it when we got back to Memphis? Pick your feet up, slam it. Because what they're trying to do when you're doing the Olympic lifts, you got those shoes, got a hard sole on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so when you're on your toes and you come back flat, that's what's making the noise. So now they're trying to get these kids to make that same noise with tennis shoes. And what happens now, I'm the one doing it right. Now this guy is teaching this 110 count football team how to do it this way. And I'm the one doing it. I know right, but now he's more of the GA older. and whoever the strength coach put in charge is. And so that's how it's being taught. And so what happens is you'll get these kids that learn how to do that. Now they're going to go to this high school. They're going to be, they're going to put you in charge of the weight room. You got this other high school coach, boom, boom. So you got so many, now those guys who learned how to do it wrong are now going and affecting these other high schools.
I've been training for over 4 decades now, and keeping track of all my training metrics has always been a big part of that. It wasn't until later on that I realized that keeping track of your internal metrics are just as important, if not more important, the longer you're in this game. Most primary care physicians, if you go in for any type of issue, they'll look for what's off, but they're not necessarily looking for how to optimize where your labs are for where you want to go. That's where Merrick Health comes in. Merrick Health does advanced blood work with medical providers around the world and a health coach who helps build a plan around your goals. I worked with Merrick to build a custom lab panel for this show. They have guided optimizations that can help you set you up with a health coach to be able to work through what your goals are, from the prescriptions to supplements, just the whole deal. Don't have to do that. You can just do the lab panels. They have options. You can find this at merrickhealth.com/table talk for 10% off your first order. One of the best decisions that I ever made was to partner with Merrick. So I highly suggest you head over to merrickhealth.com/table talk and get started today.
Just to clarify, when you say the discrepancy there between the teaching methods, you talking about people having their feet leave the floor entirely?
Yes.
Versus going up on tiptoes, the toes staying in contact with the ground, and then...
Yeah, so you want to go up, you want your knee. They teach and say triple extension, but no one's doing it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and whether it be power cleans or hang cleans or whatever, one's a reactive and one's an absolute.
Sure.
And so
are you using any Olympic lifting in your facility philosophy right now?
No.
So why? I mean, you've kind of hinted at why that might be, but why have you bled them out? Considering your background, you're fully capable of coaching them, which is obviously a barrier for a lot of coaches, right? So considering that isn't a barrier for you, why have you bled them out of your training program?
It's not transferring.
Sure.
What I do is I try to get a vertical jump performance improvement every month, and I try to get a 40-yard dash improvement performance every month at the gym. And so there was a study that said that they improve vertical jumping ability, but the vertical jump study was 6 weeks long, and it was only a half-inch improvement in vertical jump after 6 weeks. What happens after that 6 weeks? Do they continue to improve? No one knows, because everybody's just going to cite the headline of a study and then run with that without having any inkling of what the actual study, the substance of the study was. And so with the Olympic lifts, if the optimal speed strength ratio is 20%, if you take 20% of 300, that's 60 pounds. That 60 pounds is too light for a power clean.
Yeah.
Because you're not creating enough tension to make you do it right. Then if you do it too heavy, you're going to fall out of form to get their optimal rate of force development. Power cleans are rate of force development exercise, but it's more of a display of what the strength levels you have, because it moves too fast to create strength, because to create strength, you have to create tension, and to create tension, you create stress, and more stress more strength you can gain out of it. So you got to strain basically to gain out of that.
Sure.
I want to go back to the muscular tension, because you said that's something that everybody should understand. And there's a lot of caveats that are going to fall into this, right? So if we go with just max effort, repetition effort, dynamic effort, most people are going to think max effort 1 to 3 reps, right? But if it's a set of 5 and the last 2 are max effort because the first 3 fatigue the person enough to make those last 2 actual maximum effort, that's kind of the same muscular tension that you would be looking at, submaximal weight, but the last 2 are this big grind, which becomes that. The other thing with the max effort, if it is a 1 to 3 and you're trying to teach or trying to get a younger athlete to be able to get into that percentage range, they might not be able to, because they don't have the core stability, the technique, or the tightness to be able to do it. Right? Because unless it's like a leg press, unless it's something that's so supportive that they can actually push, and that heavy 1 to 3 rep, technique's going to break, I guess is what I'm saying with that. Then on that dynamic end, it gets under 20%, whatever. I mean, you're jumping, you're throwing shit, stuff like that. And then in the sub maximal, it's a little bit easier because you're dealing really with just effort, like how many reps shy of failure or how hard are you working and stuff like that. But there's all these little caveats that fall into there to where I'll see high school coaches trying to train max effort forget the max effort. Let's look at what is the adaptation we're looking to gain here. Right. From that tension. So with each one of these, if it's the maximum exertion, the dynamic, and then that middle range, what are the adaptations we're looking for out of each one of those three?
The main thing out of the max effort is I'm just trying to make sure that if I can get them to fail, you'd be surprised, even 8-9-year-olds can actually get it. Louis told me I was crazy. I had a 10-year-old deadlift triple body weight. I think it was 235 at 80 pounds. And Louis said, man, you're crazy. And so if I just had a little 12-year-old girl bench 185 at 110, 115 pound body weight. But I think when we're saying these numbers too, people don't realize how impressive it is for a little girl to bench 185. Even in we took her to powerlifting competition where you got to follow the commands with USAPL and stuff, which is really strict. She broke the American record was at that time. This was back in February, I do believe. The American record was 136 pounds, 62 and a half kilograms. And she did 48 or 49. It was 150 pound bench press, pause, everything. And she weighed in, I think, about 110 pounds that day. And so it's kind of like they can get it if you have it consistent enough over time. True. And so I had another little girl, she benched 115 pounds, weighing 80 pounds. And so sometimes I think when you're looking at kids, is them understanding what effort really is. And so then if you expose them to that effort, specific adaptations to impose demands, I got to impose this demand on this athlete over and over and over again. And eventually, it clicks. I got it. And so for sometimes if they don't, with a real young kid, I've not had to do this in a while because compensatory acceleration, we're just trying to accelerate the bar at max velocity. Even when I'm under the bar, I'm still trying to make it look easy. And so sometimes the kids are just looking to get the shit over with. And you can add a chain to the bar for like that little girl that I got. Once I had a chain, then the bar gets stuck right here, because it come off your chest and it starts to get hard toward the lockout. What they learn how to do is now they learn how to get through that sticking point a lot better. Not add the chains on there all the time, maybe like a whole month cycle of them learning how to press against that chain. So they're learning acceleration. You take that off, now they have it. Or you can, we don't do dynamic effort for upper body. We, unless you want to look at Paul's benching. Paul's bench is still static dynamic effort method. So now with static dynamic, we're getting rate of force development and absolute strength at the same time. And so you can also pause bench them and almost get the same effect, because now once they lose that kinetic energy or that elastic part of it, they have to overcome that resistance a lot quicker. And so that's also teaching them too. And I'm not just benching them once or twice, sometimes twice, but most of the time I'm trying to get these kids to bench and squat 3 days a week.
Since we're talking about the max effort method, because you've already mentioned that like there will be some schools of thought where they don't really focus on that absolute part of the spectrum there. So first off, what is that part of the spectrum bringing to the table in terms of on-field performance? And then B, I'm going to assume there's some form of diminishing returns, or maybe I'm wrong. So how do you determine that point, as in how much stronger does my athlete need to be to actually get the desired result on the field, if you understand what I'm asking there?
Yeah. That's just done based off monthly measurements. And so like I'm not seeing the diminishing returns, because like when we are squatting and we're jumping, we're both raising our absolute and our rate of force development at the same time. So I've got some things we're also box squatting. Now with the box squatting, like I just said, it's a static dynamic method, just like the Paul's benching is. You're getting rate of force development and absolute strength developed at the same time. True. So they can increase their sprint performance on a monthly basis if they just squat. But sometimes, and most of the time, my high school kids, they can't. So I can regular squat a kid. So you're talking about the whole thing is I need to improve the strength this much, this month, every month in order to continue to get these results over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so if I can continue to push with using a box, so I had these two kids and they both played football. And one kid said, hey, Jared, I'm regular squatting. I said, you're not going to get faster if you regular squat. And he goes, I don't care. That's what we do at school. I said, I don't give a shit what you do at school. I said, I'm trying to help you play football. You don't want to be that kid that becomes strong and can't move. Mm-hmm. And so he goes, I don't care. We're going to regular squat at school. And so this was a perfect little in-gym study for me because this other kid, he was with me before. He left and went to another like speed and agility place for a year. And when he came back, I took a picture of his 40-yard dash time when he left and when he came back, and was from November to November, about 17 to 2018 range. And I sent it to his dad, and his dad said, how do I know that was coming? Because I measured this 40-yard dash. You know how hard it is to improve the 40-yard dash every month, all over time? Yeah. And so these two kids, they're about the same height, and they both squatted 315 at 0.6 meters per second. Mm-hmm. And so month one, both of them ran a 5'1" 40-yard dash. All right, good. 5'1" 40-yard dash, 315 at 0.6 meters per second, level playing field. And so the next month, one ran a 5 flat, the other one stayed at a 5'1". The next month, the one ran a 4.9, the other one stayed at a 5'1". At that separation point, if it was me or one of y'all competing against it, I'm just going to give up. I want to get faster. I don't want to get. Yeah. And so the next month, it was a 4.8, then a 5.2. Mm-hmm. Next month, it was a 4.7 and a 5.2. Now we're a half second different. And the whole kicker part of it is that at the end, by the end of that semester, they were both squatting 405 at 6 meters per second. Mm-hmm. So they were still both, but with the squat itself, without the box, you're using elastic energy to help you stand back up with. You're not letting it dissipate on the box. And that's where that blue pad comes in super handy, because you got to have that blue pad to absorb that energy to make your nervous system work harder to overcome that resistance.
So I guess, I think I worded my question badly. Most will say that there's this point where getting stronger on the squat, regardless of the variation of squat, becomes this diminishing returns to 40-yard dash power output. So like there becomes this tipping point where like it takes so much input to continue to improve the squat, it actually becomes not worth it, because you could put those same resources into something else that has a more direct carryover. But it doesn't seem like you're hitting that point. No, it seems like you're getting this not linear effect perhaps, but it's always, the strength is always paying off at a rate of investment that is worth it keeping in.
Yes.
Because you have some of your athletes who are moving, pretty impressive loads. And, a lot of strength coaches would have probably moved away from pushing maximal strength still at that point because of this, should we say, supposed returns or diminished returns on investment.
Yes. I was trying to get into this right here to just kind of show what happens if we improve our strength over time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I borrow your pen?
Yeah.
I forgot all about these numbers right here, but I gave you and Dave this squat ratio sheet. And so if I wanted to get an athlete to run a 4.7 40-yard dash, if he could squat 1.7 times his body weight at 6 meters per second, it will yield this 40-yard dash time. Mm-hmm. And so if I get into the squat, I'm going to write these down. 4.7 is a 1.7, a 1.8 is a 4.6, 1.6 is a 4.8, 1.5 is a 4.9, 5.0 is a 0.4. Okay, so on this thing right here, if you cover up the 40-yard dash time with your left hand, and you look at the ratio, that 1:4:3 ratio, and I didn't put this on this so y'all could see that very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
But a 1.4 should yield a 5-something 40-yard dash. Mm-hmm. So if you move your finger, you can see it's a 5.05 and a 5.09. Now look at this kid, the next one, 1.7. Mm-hmm. So that 1.7 should yield a...
Yep, sure.
See right here? It says 4.7 on this chart. Yeah. And then if you scroll down that 1, 151. I didn't go up high enough on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1.3. So if you squat 1.3 times your body weight at
Yep.
6 meters per second, you should run a 5.140 yard dash.
Sure.
Then that 1.68. So if you look at here on this right here,
Mm-hmm.
that 1.6 should yield that 4.8.
Yeah.
And that 1.6. So now that 1.5, I didn't go up high enough. So that's what I forgot to bring is that whole chart that I had that showed. But okay, you see that ratio at that 1.7, that second one down.
Mm-hmm.
Now if you go all the way down to the bottom,
2.0.
so if you the third one up from the bottom,
Yep, sure. 1.7.
1.7. He ran a 4.77, and if you go back to the top, that guy ran a 4.78.
Sure.
And so if you see, I've named that kid 4 times down there at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of where the diminishing turns keeps happening, or it actually don't.
Yeah.
When this kid was squatting 1.63, that 1.6 here on this chart
Mm-hmm.
says 4.8.
Sure.
And so when he was running a 1.6, he ran a 4.8. When he was running a 4.77, he ran a 4.70. But you see how he's at 1.70 and he's got 4.77 right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's barely into 1.7 range. And so that's why he's barely into 4.7. So he's not running a low 4.7. He's running a high 4.7 because he's at that chart ratio.
Yeah.
But now if I go 1.77,
Mm-hmm.
now he's at 4.73.
Sure.
And so now I got him to squat 2.04 as a 4.49.
Wow. So this is like what they can squat at that
At 6 meters per second.
at 6. So how are this is very cool, by the way. How much correlation is there then between, I know you're not doing 1 rep maxes, but let's say 3 or 5 rep max. How much correlation do you find there is between this absolute threshold here, which is determining their 40-yard dash, and then their 3 to 5 rep max? Like, do they correlate very well, or is there like a drop-off point there?
We're not really, well, I call it, we just miss reps. So we're missing between,
Mm-hmm.
so if I got them doing set of 5, and they go 5, 4, 3, 3, or 5, 5, 4, 3, or something like that. And over time, I'm just monitoring tendo speeds.
Yeah.
And so if I'm monitoring tendo speeds over time, I'm not really trying to come in and do a 3 rep max.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, I think this 0.6 I just came up with by mistake, because when I trained my first kid for the NFL, he trusted me to train him for his pro day. He squatted 315 at 6 meters per second.
Mm-hmm.
And then he weighed about 217. Then we went to 235 and he squatted 405 at 6 meters per second. And so that ratio changed from him from that he was running 4.748 to he ran a 4.55 and a 4.50. And that's not matching the ratio, because that ratio right there really happens with the safety squat bar.
Sure. Okay.
And so you could take someone that they'll move 265 at 6 meters per second on a straight bar, and then they'll move 225 at 6 meters per second on the safety squat bar.
Sure.
And so what we found with the intern stuff I had this past year is that if you take 85%, if you got straight bar, not a lot of people don't have the safety squat bar. So if you take 85% like if you move 315 at 6 meters per second, you take 85% of 315, that's 265, then divide by your body weight, then now you fit into the ratio.
Sure. So
I guess let me,
cool.
if this first person here, let's say Jake, right, at 275, if he's a freshman, then if he's working with you for 4 years, he should be squatting 515. Right. So how does this physically work? Because if all these people on here have been with you for 3 or 4 years, these should all be like 500 or 600 pound squats, but they're not. Mm-hmm. Right. That's just if they're making 5 pound PRs every month, because you said you want to test it every month. There should be improvements every month. Mm-hmm. And if there's not improvements every month, then optimum situation, they'd be putting 120 pounds on their squat every year for 4 years, which that's not going to happen. So there's got to be some kind of phasic structure that disrupts that.
Their season is when they don't come in.
So then how much regression do you see after their season? This is not a bad thing. This is normal. This is real world, because you're not going to have all 700 pound squatters.
Just like everything, I may have this kid they may come to me as a sophomore. They may come to me as a junior. They may come to me as a freshman. The kid at the bottom has been with me since he was a 6th grader.
Okay.
But he never has come during football season. So I'm losing August, September, October, and sometimes most of November, depending on how far they go. So I'm losing 4 months. So then it usually takes me 4, maybe 6 weeks at the max to get them back to where they were.
Okay.
And so now if I get them in December, January, so mid-January is we're starting to get back on roll. So now we got February, March, April, then it starts to slow down again because May comes spring practice. So that's where my issue becomes, is when they hit that season.
Yeah. So if these are different blocks, what do those 4 months when they come back look like versus after they've been back for 4 months, or is it still the same?
What do you mean?
So they come off of the season.
Yep.
Right. And yes, they're going to be detrained. They're going to be beat up,
Yep.
or whatever it's going to be. They're going to come back in the gym. Is the program when they come back, if we were to break this into blocks, like say Louis used 3 weeks block, Bumpa has 5 week blocks. Everything has blocks associated with it, right? Are those blocks different when they come back as versus if somebody stayed the whole time?
No, they're pretty much everything's always the same. I call it Groundhog Day because nothing changes, because you got to keep repeating that same thing over and over again to get that.
So it's just the load that's going to change.
Yeah, the load changes a good bit.
So do you have to test them when they come back?
I do, and some refuse to, and some will let me test, because I like to see the regression.
Yeah, yeah.
Because typically after season, they're losing 0.2 of a second on the 40-yard dash. And so then it takes, okay, now, because if you just do like squat and jump, that 40-yard dash will move without sprinting. All these numbers happen a lot of times without sprinting, because the hard thing is to get kids to squat. And so then if I can get them to show that, hey, we're improving your 40-yard dash on a monthly basis without squatting, then they're more buying in to continuing to squat. Then if we needed to add in some extra sprinting and stuff like that, now we can. But if I ran them at first and they showed improvement in their speed, they would think it was from the running and not from the strength.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent, and it's the reason why the podcast is still here now. The podcast is free to listen to, but it's not free to produce. It keeps going because of the sales through Elite FTS, our show sponsors, but more importantly, our crew members. The reason I love this is for many reasons, is it keeps the show independent. So I can pick who I want to speak to. I can pick what topics I want to speak to, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I just go off what the crew members want and what the audience wants, and I don't have to deal with all the other bull crap that's associated with the podcast world. In return, what you get with the crew is ad-free episodes that are released a day ahead of time. You get access to our Discord community, which has AMAs, like 60 ebooks. We try to put a new ebook out every single month. Access to our coaching community with form checks, training Q&As. It also gives you invitations to our training retreats that are out here in the gym once or twice a year. 76% of all the people that joined in 2022 are still members now. Right now, you can either go month to month or get 2 months free with an annual plan. Just look for the link in the description, look at the QR code, or search elitefts.com crew and join today. It means a lot.
Sure. I got with this. Sorry, I just want to go back to this for a sec because this is really interesting. It will commonly be thought about that, when you're looking at like power output and rate of force development, that the importance of maximal strength will vary based on like how explosive the athlete kind of is naturally. Like you got a very fast twitch athlete over here, very slow. Usain Bolt's like a wonderful example. Doesn't need a lot of strength, but obviously it's insanely explosive. And then you've got people more over here who, because perhaps they're more slow twitch naturally, require more absolute force production, strength, muscle, whatever, to get the same power output. Do you find that there is variance in this based on those types of parameters, or do you find that this just seems to correlate across the board?
You got your high twitch guys and you got your low twitch guys, and it's pretty much the same because we're dealing with that acceleration window of about 33 yards. So like if you're talking about sprinting and performance, football's played 20. If you're a linebacker in the middle field, right side's 25 yards, left side's 25. So you're playing within a 25-yard lesser window for acceleration. And that's why this is just more. Now, this is for 40-yard dash. Now, once you get out for it, you may start having a lot more changes.
Yes.
This is kind of where speed training gets kind of, a lot of college coaches, a lot of people out there are studying sprinting, and it's based off track sprinting, which really muddies the waters because track sprinting actually hurts the 40-yard dash time. And so I'll get kids like, this is where I lost that one kid at the bottom for a while. He was with me. I had him going into his 9th grade year. I had him running a 4.88 40-yard dash, complete laser time. And I use the most strict laser timing hand. There's no Bluetooth window. So these times that you're seeing, like that 4.4, maybe a 4.3, 4.2 at the NFL Combine. Sure. Because I've got papers over here that show, and I get so sidetracked on everything. The Z stands for the NFL system.
Yeah.
And this is my laser system, where you got this kid running a 4.6 here, and he ran a 4.40 on my laser, on the Z laser, which is one they use at the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
And versus what I'm using.
So you're measuring slow relative to the Combine.
Yeah. And so when people are hearing 4.8s, 4.7s, I had a kid said his own come gym and run a 4.6. You run a 4.6, I'll give you $1,000. And the kid ran a 5.1. They get so diluted with whatever training device.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants a good time. And if you can't time with an iPhone, it's going to be terrible, or even a stopwatch. So my whole thing is, if I'm going to send a kid out there in the world, I need to make sure that whatever time they get to the gym, they're not going to get worse than that somewhere else. Like this past year, I had this kid, I had 6 weeks to get him ready for the MLB Combine, straight out of high school. He was projected to go 3rd round, and the scouts had him at average or below average speed. And so, Jared, I need you to get these numbers. He said, I've seen kids, I've seen what you've done, and I've seen all these. And I'm saying, like 6 weeks, you're that's a tight window, because sometimes based off their adaptation rate, everybody's going to, that's kind of where stuff also plays, because everybody's got their own adaptation rate. Some can adapt at this rate, some at this rate. And so I'm like, oh boy. And so that's kind of a lot of pressure on me. The agent calls, the high school kid trying to go to MLB Combine. I was like, well, the school, he was committed to go play D1 baseball, and the baseball team called him and said, if you're not here for summer ball, you're not going to be on our team. Okay. I'm like, damn, what are we going to do? And so they trusted me. So I box squatted him with the blue pad. We need to get into that too, because the height of the box matters a lot. And that blue pad matters a lot. If you change those variables, you're going to change the outcome. And so the only thing we did for him, I had to sprint him because I had 6 weeks. I had to make sure that I threw everything at him. But we didn't do hardly anything. We did box squat. We did our dumbbell jumps. We did sprints. And we may have done 45 hyper before. 45 hyper with that cambered bar you have with a big camber in it. If you use 45 hyper with that cambered bar, it directly improves your broad jump performance. And so this kid goes to the MLB Combine, projected 3rd round kid, and his dad called and showed me a video of him running. He ran a 3.55 and a 30. And that's where numbers get missed. That was the 4th fastest time this year at the MLB Combine, and I think top 10 all time. And so he ended up getting drafted 1st round.
Wow.
In that short. And so that was a pretty cool story, but we didn't do anything. We squatted, we jumped, we sprinted, and did a 45 hyper. And he had the 7th best broad jump. As a high school kid versus all these other kids, it's been 4 years of college, more at these high level schools.
So, I mean, you've mentioned the box squat specifically there, so let's go into that. Why not? First off, you mentioned the relationship with the straight bar and the safety squat bar. So for those who are maybe listening to this and think this sounds really interesting, first off, can the same results be achieved with the straight bar? It's just that this coefficient would be different.
Yes, and what we've learned is that whatever you squat at 6 meters per second with a safety squat bar, you take 85% of that.
Yeah.
Then you take that. So 315, 85%, 265, 265 divided by your body weight will give you your ratio.
Sure.
And then there you should fall in line with it.
Sure. So you can get similar results with both is my point there. So let's talk about the box squat then. So, cause I've got, I think it was one of your podcasts where you talked about how basically you're infuriated because the box squat is taught wrong a lot of the time. So if we're talking about maximizing these results here, how are you teaching and executing the box squat specifically for that?
We use a closer stance squat instead of the wide stance squat. And that's where it's, because if we can, jumping and sprinting are correlated. So the only reason we're squatting is to improve our jump. If we jump higher, we'll improve our sprint. And because sometimes if the athletes come in and they do get stronger, that 40-yard dash may not show up on that monthly basis, like I'm trying to get it to. And you look at they got a jump sticker in the folder to where they're supposed to be recording their jumps every time they come in. So whatever they jump today, they got to come in and they'll stay over. There's no sets and reps to jump. It auto regulates. So they're not trying to come in, hit this number of jumps this day. If you jump and you break it after 3 jumps, move on. Because next time it may take you 10 jumps. And so over time, your body, because I'm just trying to get them to lock in and change the music, change the environment, do something, because I don't control the environment. I let the kids control it, changing the music. I don't care. Break your number.
Sure.
That's all I care about. Break your number. And once we get that, then they can kind of move on. And that's kind of where, well, Jared, how many jumps do you do? We don't regulate that. Let the body regulate. Let the results regulate that over time.
Sure.
What would be the maximum, though? What if they can't hit it?
There's kids been over there 20, 30 minutes. Eventually they can, but if you've done it enough, when you've exhausted yourself, if you tried everything you do, because they can come in and to start off have like a shitty first jump or two, then it kind of gets down on themselves. And so once they kind of get down on themselves and then we change the music or change the environment, then it starts to come up. Okay, that was better. Okay, now boom, boom, boom. Then you get people over there watching. You got to have people. The gym's busy. I mean, they're like, you got 30 kids in there an hour sometimes, and sometimes it's even more than that. And so you take a group of kids and they go over there and watch you jump. It's more pressure. So then that pressure helps you break that number. If you was doing personal training, you do it one-on-one, you're never going to get that kid to do that. And that's kind of what makes one-on-one stuff.
And they're doing this every time they come in?
3 days a week.
All right. So, I mean, that kind of falls back on if they have to break their number before every training session and we expand this out over 6 months, how's that possible? Because now they're adding 24 inches?
No,
36 inches?
Because they're not going to, because I use a jump mat. And so you may jump at 24.1. Next time you may come in and jump at 24.3. Next time you may jump in and jump at 24.7. So I'm hoping for like an inch per month.
Okay.
For every time they come in.
Now, if they do this 20 or 30 attempts and they still can't say they're 10% under what's normal, is that it for that day? Are they done? I
try to have them hit a minimum thing of 95%. So whatever,
okay, that's where I was going.
Yeah, so whatever 95% of their best is, as long as you're within that 95%, like if we could do the calculations, but if you're jumping a 30-inch vertical, 95% is maybe a 28.5.
Yeah.
And so you're not in the 29s, and although you've hit a 30, you're still within that window. If I gave you a 95 on a test, would you be happy with it? Yeah. And so at least stay within that 90% plus to be effective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so then
back to the squat, because it was a closed stance.
Yeah. Okay. I picked this up from Louis a long time ago. I was squatting with a higher box with a stiffer pad. And I forgot who Louis said he had someone squat a closed stance down to a 12-inch box. And I said, why not? In my mind, I said, why not squat in the hardest manner possible? And so then I narrowed our feet in and started squatting off 12-inch box. But for some reason, I used that blue foam pad. I guess because there was a black one available at the time. There was a blue one. Then I think eventually the red one came in. And so I used the blue one because it was softer. And with the softer pad, you're going to use more leg drive because it also helps absorb more of that kinetic energy. So I'm trying to get as much energy to dissipate as I can on that box, but I'm also trying to squat to that 12. I got the 12-inch box thing from Lou, not knowing what it was going to do in the long run. It was just squatting closer. Like I went from squatting 535 wide higher to barely squatting 315 close and lower. And so then after doing that, at the same time, I'm trying to experiment with different kids. And at the end of each month, I'm trying to test their 40-yard dash because I'm trying to see what is not working. Because if I can get this kid faster, no matter what, that kid has a better shot to play because everybody likes a fast kid. And so then we'd play with it. So then if I raised the box up 1 inch, I had a kid that was running a 4.8. We went from a 5 flat, 4.9, 4.8. He may have started off higher than that. But then we went up 1 inch in the box because this is when it becomes like they want to squat more. So if I increase the height of the box, you can squat more. But his 40-yard dash went from a 4.8, 4.9, 5 flat. When he increased the box back down, it started dropping again.
So first, the 12-inch box regardless of the athlete?
6'2", generally 6'2" or under.
Okay, so if they're 6'5", was it like 14?
I take the 12-inch box, the red box pad and put the blue box on top of that.
Okay, so we're 2 inches.
Yeah, it's about 2 inches.
Okay, sure. So what do you think, what is your theory then as to why that, what is a pretty low?
Absolutely no clue.
No idea.
Now, wait a minute. Now, with the blue thing, are you letting them, because it's a compression pad.
Yeah.
Are you letting it compress all the way, or are they coming up
No,
before?
they have to sit.
Okay.
You want to sit, let the energy completely dissipate. So 1, 2, boom. Because you're trying to teach starting strength, your ability to accelerate.
Sure.
And so if you're using that pad, and if the pad's too stiff, or if they use a bench or whatever, just because you squat a lot, and I don't like that if it's not transferring to I'm trying to get these people to fit into the ratio too. Like I had a kid that was not within the ratio. He was way outside of it, but I increased his box height, and then he fell right in line with it. So
now, is this height just hip joint to knee parallel, right about, or a little bit above?
some people are either hip joint to parallel or sometimes a little bit below.
Okay.
But here's the weird thing.
Now, the other question would be, how long do you think they're sitting on the box?
About a second to a second and a half.
All right, so like 1001, 1002.
Then accelerate. Yeah.
Okay.
I want them to squat as hard as possible.
Do you want them to rock or not rock?
I'd prefer them not to rock.
Okay, I get it. Well, let's expand on that, though, because some people may not. Some people intentionally try to do it, you know, and you don't want to do that. But if it's just like a natural thing,
Yeah.
that you really can't coach it out of some people.
Yeah. And you just got to, yeah, you're right. So you just got to kind of watch. Some people do just natural, and some people can just sit there and just be straight up. And if they're a natural rocker, don't try to sit them into the straight up mode. But if you're straight up, don't go to the rocker mode.
Sure.
You know, because then just because they do it, don't mean you should. So I think everybody tries to put everybody in this big picture. You still have, like, if you look at golf, you got your Jim Furyk golf swing, you got Tiger, you got even where like Scotty Scheffler's feet slides. Everybody's got their own style of getting the job done. You know, but just keep that style instead of trying to widen your feet out to get more weight.
Okay, now if I understood you correctly, you're wide when you had the wider stance guys compared to the closer stance guys, the correspondence with the wider stance was not close to the closer stance.
No, so kid named Colton back in the day, like 2017, he was the highest vertical jump. In 2017, I had the number 1 and number 7 and number 9 highest vertical jump kids in the country. I had 7 in the top 50 and I had 11 in the top 100. Colton box squatted 625. Nope, we don't squat with a belt on at the gym either. Because if you put the belt on these athletes, that's a belt's a brace. And so then you're not helping their natural brace out. So when they get impacted on the field, they're not going to be able to wear a belt out there. And so that was my thought behind that. And so I just thought without a belt makes you stronger anyway. If they go to a powerlifting competition, I'll let them put a belt on there because we get about 5% more strength out of it.
Sure.
But I just lost my thing.
The wide with the natural with the carryover to the jump.
Colton squatted 625 wide stance, about 195 to 200 pounds, and only ran a 4.6 40-yard dash. And so he was well outside the ratio, but that was with a straight bar. Even if you take away that 15%, he still didn't fit into.
Was that to a higher box as well? Or
no, that was still a 12-inch box.
Okay, sure.
625 at about 190 to 200 pound body weight.
Sure. And when you've experimented with a higher box, you've also seen it not carry over so well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So like I had another athlete, he squatted 600 with a blue pad and a red pad, and he was well outside the ratio. So when we ran a 40-yard dash that day, I said, take the red pad away and go squat. And I said, do this number here. And he came back to me, and I think it was a 6'1" or 6'2".
I wonder if that's the distance of the bar, because power, right, is force times distance.
My thought here would be, if we're looking at specifically 40-yard dash time, so sprint, when you look at all the studies on like partial squats, like top half squats and vertical jump, they correlate because the top half is quad dominant, it mimics the joint angles, etc. Whereas like a sprint, there's more hip hinge, there's more glute dominance. And if you're doing this this is just me spitballing theory, right? If you're narrower stance and your hip is going lower relative to the knee, then the glutes are stretching more and they're getting used more. So your narrow stance, low box squat is considerably more glute than someone else's high box squat.
Yeah, the high box is going to be more hamstring down. So that so like where you get, Louis talked about the wide stance box squat, and you said like the quarter squats. I've not had success with those within that 40-yard dash range because that's where, even when I was younger, you would still study these track people. And because that's where all the information is, hey, sprinting, but the sprinting is not changing this. And like when I was trying to kind of go down these different rabbit holes, like with Dorsey, we was talking about earlier, running a 4.88 as going into ninth grade. Coming out of football season, all football coaches want you to run track. They got to build a track team. I said, Dorsey, do not run track. He said, why? I said, it will make you slower. He said, how's that? I'm running. I said, I don't know, because I saw it with even with Colton that squatted 625 at 190 pound bout. That's the first time it dawned on me, because I put him at track, not knowing any better. This is still 2017, and I've had the gym since 08, and I've been testing everything. And so then Colton's my stepson. So once you get him in, when you have your own kids, that you start paying a little bit more attention to what's actually going on. Because I'm going to make sure I test him on a month, because I've got him at a monthly basis no matter what. Some of these other kids are kind of come and go. And so, and track season, he dropped 2 to 3/10 of a second. And so after track season is May. May spring practice. So when you get to May with the football people, being that they're doing so much running, I'm not getting my 40-yard dash times in May. I may get them with my baseball players and my other athletes, my football players, not. June, not. July, not. I'm just trying to eliminate the drop-off effect before they get in the season. And so Dorsey came out running a 4.88 in his freshman year. Now, didn't get a chance to get better till the next year. So then after season, after track and tested me, he ran a 5.2. He was pissed, because now that hurt. If you're going to try to get a scholarship to play football and you run a 5.2 at a camp or a showcase, you're done. And so, because they're not knowing your name because of so many kids, they're charting these numbers. Hey, I want this kid 5.5. Or this 4.4, this 4.5, this circle this kid. Then they're looking over here at the name and say, oh, this kid did this, because everybody wants the fast kid. That's why I'm trying to make all these kids on a monthly basis, try to get them so much faster. And so the next season, after he came out running a 5.2, he did not run track the next year. And the coaches just kind of just shit on the whole. Said, you're going to be so slow, you're not going to be able to move, because they know he's coming to me, because everybody associates lifting with being slow for some reason. And so by the time spring practice came around, he was so much, they could not believe how much faster he was. So the next off season, I had about 20 more kids from the same team. And then you got this other kid that comes in, he got down to a 4.7, and I told him, do not run track. And I said, go talk to Dorsey. And he said, don't rip. They don't understand until they experiment. Hey, that stove's hot. That's kids are going to touch that damn stove. And so they got to get burned before they kind of understand. So then he ran track. He went from 4.7 to maybe a 4.9, maybe a 5 flat, another 2 to 3/10 of a second drop.
We live in some crazy times right now where there's not a day that I don't go on the internet and I see some BS crap about this research study or this research study. This isn't new. I've been in this industry for 4 decades. One thing that's helped me is 8 years ago, the Mass Research Review started and became a godsend. The Mass Research team are professional researchers that are also meatheads. So they've done this great job of being able to take all these topics and put them into this research review that I get every month. I'm excited to partner with them. I spoke with Eric Helms about this on the podcast. It's simple, it's easy. They're offering a 20% discount to all podcast listeners. The code is elitefts20. When you join, you get the research review, which is going to be sent to you every single month. That has 7 to 9 articles in there. The archive, which is 1,500 articles, thousands of videos. Just head over to massresearchreview.com and use the code elitefts20. The link will be in the description.
So when you take this stuff and come and present it to Louis, how did that go?
Louis, he was really fascinated with the jump. I don't know if I got a whole lot. I don't know if I had the ratio. I was starting to get more into how the ratio started work. I think the last time I saw him was fall of 21, because he past 22. He was just real fascinated with with the jumping and stuff. And I told Lou, I said, Lou, I said, you've tried to teach everybody speed squat, speed bench, max effort squat, max effort bench, all this stuff. You had all this knowledge, but you were trying to tell people, and because Louis was still trying to learn stuff even at his age. And what I thought he wanted to know is how have other people taken what he's tried to teach and how they've implemented it. And so I said, Lou, I said, I'm not Westside. I said, I'm explosive mechanics. But if it were not for you and you teaching me these right books to read, I would not know or have an understanding. And so I said, I've learned more from you than I did in my college. And so, but I didn't copy you. I just interpreted what you was trying to say. So this is what I come up with what you were trying to teach. So that's why I said, this is funny. I said, Lou, 6 meters per second. He goes, no, 8. I said, no, Lou, 6. I said, 8's too fast because if the bar moves too fast, you don't create tension. If you don't create tension, you don't create strength. He goes, yeah, that's why I increased the percentage. Oh, so you actually slowed the bar down. And so.
No, that sounds like a Louis answer.
And so then after that, I was riding in the car with him, and he said, let me take you by my warehouse. And he started throwing shit in the bag. I said, Lou, I don't need anything. He wanted to give me the shit. I said, Lou, he said, if you don't tell me, I'm just going to start throwing shit in the bag, and you're just going to take it anyway. I said, Lou. And so he just started putting shit in the bag, and he went, and he said, to Jared, a true Westsider, in that last book they wrote, that samurai thing.
Mm-hmm.
But was he listening to what you were saying about the closer stance and the 0.6 meters per second? Was he absorbing that, or was he still trying to convince you to get them all out wide?
No, he said you have a system and it works, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't show you all this.
Well, it's the reason I'm asking is because it's interesting, because I was there. A lot of coaches would come in, mm-hmm. and then they would speak to him about exactly what you've done, right? Mm-hmm. Like how they implemented it into their program. And I wasn't too sure during the time I was there if he was really actually listening mm-hmm. or not. Mm-hmm. Because the real super interesting thing about all this was this is during my time there. So that's just that 14 years. I can't speak for any other time. Is that he would listen to the coaches that would visit more than he would listen to us. Mm-hmm. Like, so if we had an idea, we'd have to wait for like one of the coaches that was like a reoccurring, and then like tell them about it, ask them what they thought about it, kind of like brainwash them into thinking that they're actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And then they would tell Louis that they're doing this with success. Yeah. And then it would kind of float back and we'd be able to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah. Because my younger years, earlier 2000s, he didn't listen a whole lot.
Yes.
But then once you kind of show them like these numbers and stuff, like, because he was very number oriented.
Big time. Mm-hmm.
And so once you showed him how these people are changing these numbers, that's what he cared about. Because all he wanted to do was faster. He was a power guy.
Yeah, well, he's a numbers guy too. Yeah. So that makes sense.
I don't know if this is a bigger blown up version of this. That's not the one I wanted to show you. Okay.
See, now for me, with you presenting this the way you are, the way I view this from like a biomechanics viewpoint, it makes perfect sense to me. Like the lower box squat with the purposeful pause is going to be considerably more glute dominant. It's going to get rid of the stretch reflex, which you don't have when you're doing the beginning of a sprint, right? So we're increasing starting strength in a glute dominant manner, which mimics very closely what we have to do at the start of a sprint. You're telling your kids not to do track, which primarily trains elastic strength as opposed to, it makes them less stiff, like in terms of the tendons and stuff, which is good if you want to sprint a long way. But if you're a football player and your entire universe is 50 yards wide at most, you don't need that. So you're keeping them, for want of a better word, like in terms of tendons and system, stiff and reactive. It makes perfect sense. And it almost makes me mad that you don't think of it more simply. Not that what you've done is simple. I think it's fantastic. But when you really peel it back, you're like, I don't see how you could argue against it in some ways.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to, because this, like most people, like when you're doing track, these kids will lose weight and maybe get faster.
Sure.
But are they getting faster on I know this is going to be very hard to see, and I'll pass it over to you, but think about this. So like if you're a kid, you're trying to play football, like I was a kid trying to play football. I wanted to be, what did they tell you at the banquet every year. Bigger, faster, stronger. Bigger, high school, middle school, even college. Bigger, faster, stronger. Why are we not measuring this shit on a monthly basis? And they don't do that. So this kid, again, I'm on this laser system is very strict. So 5.2 is going to sound slow, but regardless, it's a consistent feedback device. I'm using a consistent feedback device where we're timing this stuff. And so this kid, he ran a 5.2 month one. Next month, he ran a 5.1. Next month, he ran a 5 flat. The next month, he ran a 4.8. So we skipped that 4.9. But the next month, we ran a 4.90. Then the next month, we came back and ran a 4.8 again. And starting body weight was 177 pounds. And then this is all from November to April. So it went from 177 to 205. He went from a 5.2 to a 4.8. So we're 0.4 of a second faster, 28 pounds heavier. His vertical went from a 32 to a 38-inch vertical. His bench press, first month, 185. Next month, 210. Next month, 250. Next month, 275. Next month, 295. Then the next month, 315. So we're getting these huge increases. We're squatting not for absolute squat. We're squatting to sprint faster. So that's why I'm trying to, I don't really test maximum squat every month because our squat max is our sprint speed.
Yeah, sure.
And so our jumps are moving, but everybody likes to bench press. So if I can give you 20 pounds per month on your bench press, if I can get someone's benched, they're going to listen to me a lot more on other stuff. Now, if you do this over here on the squad, it'd do this too. So then you got to show them these results. So now imagine this kid from November, football season ends in November. He was weighing 177 pounds with a 185 bench and running a 5.2 40-yard dash. April, at the end of April, he was running 4.87, 37-inch vertical, 205. So he's 28 pounds heavier, 0.4 of a second faster, and he's well over 100 pounds stronger in the bench. Upper body, and he's a running back. May spring practice. What did I just give that coach? I gave him a hell of a much better product than he gave me.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the 40-yard dash, and the vertical jump has come up multiple times. Do you do anything with relation to the broad jump then? Because, you know, most will say like the broad jump has more correlation to sprint speed. So on, like the broad jump is more specific to someone who sprints, whereas a vertical jump is more specific to, say, a basketball player, a volleyball player, or whatever. So do you do anything with that, or do you find that it still correlates fine?
I find that you can't train the broad jump like you can the vertical jump, because with the vertical jump, you can use the dumbbells. So with the dumbbell jumps, you got a lot more center of gravity. So if you use kettlebells, they swing. If you put a weighted vest on, your center of gravity. Like I used to train with a weighted vest at first. You bend over with a weighted vest. You're so top heavy, your center of gravity is off. So your kinesthetic awareness is really thrown off in the air. And so you take a 40 to 60 pound vest off, you can jump in the air. And I landed sideways on my ankle, almost broke my ankle. And so I said, well, that's not the right way. Then I tried to use, with the jumping with the dumbbells, I was trying to figure out, because, and super training, you got static dynamic, improves rate of force development, absolute strength. So you got these methods that improve rate of force development. So you got pneumatics. Don't know how the hell you use pneumatics with anything. You got load release and heavy light. And so with the dumbbells, we can do a heavy light method to stimulate the nervous system so that it operate in this ultra stimulated state to where we get this result out of it. And so then you got to have super training, and then you got to have science practice strength training. Then you got to have science and sport training, because they all have different little rewording segments in them to where you have to learn how to put that together and then to come up with this thing. So like, I didn't want to do a load release, because if you jump up and you land with the dumbbells, subconsciously, you're not going to jump aside because you're worried about landing on the way to break, rolling your ankle. And so if you use dumbbells versus even like a trap bar, even the bar on your back, you still got to lean over, and you still have to control it. With leaving the ground with the dumbbells in your hand, you can continually focus and land on that mat and maybe jump at 27.1. Next time you jump at 27.5. And so with we're trying to break the loaded jumps, not the absolute vertical jump every time.
Right. Okay. So first off, you don't really focus on the broad jump because you find it's not as trainable.
Yes, correct.
And also, I suppose, in terms of shear stress on the joints and so on and so forth.
I'm not even worried about their joints.
No, it's okay, fair. But
I guess Lou didn't either. All I care about is the numbers.
Yeah, sure. But it's interesting that you're getting these results in 40-yard dash without any emphasis on the broad jump. That's really interesting. So let's talk about, so how are you actually performing or executing these dumbbell jumps then? Because that's been something that's like a bit of a cornerstone for your system, right?
Yeah.
Something that you've kind of pioneered. So how exactly are you utilizing it and what's it bringing to the table?
By finding the kids that can jump with the right dumbbells and waved in the right fashion, they'll improve their vertical. And so the whole thing is, if I can improve their vertical, I'll improve their sprint speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just jumping with the weight and just tracking it as far.
Sure. Well, how much weight are we using there? Like, say, kid comes into your system, you've never coached him before, like typical high school athlete. Like, what are we doing there? Are we just starting with jump training until he's at a certain point? Like, how does that?
No, I don't even. Even the young kids will load them.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's based off their squat.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's based off of whether they can hit that certain vertical with that certain number of weight. Depending on which weight and which wave we want to start them with.
Mm-hmm. So what are the typical kind of like loads that you're looking at there relative to their squat perhaps, and how are you like mediating? So is the volume just every session they come in and do them? Is there any kind of sets, reps, percentages? And are we looking to scale up weight over time, or is that just done relative to their squat?
That's
a lot thrown at you there.
Well, because I have a jump book on it, and all that's covered in it.
Sure.
And to be fair for the people, I didn't want to.
No, I understand. Whatever you feel comfortable divulging.
Yeah, and so we use optimal speed strength with the loaded jumps. Then we waive that based off of that optimal speed strength ratio.
Sure. Okay.
Or that speed strength percentage.
Sure. And do you find that, because loaded jumps, many would consider to be reasonably advanced in terms of methodology. Do you find that most of your athletes are able to just come in and do them, or do some of them require like prep work to get to that point? They're good to go?
They're good to go. And the thing about the loaded jumps, like with the optimal ratio, like the optimal percent for speed strength is with a trap bar. You see if people are loading it with 135 pounds or even 95 pounds, then you're starting to get outside that optimal percent range. So they're actually now jumping with it too heavy. And they're also most often not jumping with it with some type of feedback device like a mat or some type of jump performance feedback thing. And so if they're going in and just jumping without some type of feedback, that's why they're not understanding the results.
Sure. Okay.
And so then we're not doing, with the dumbbell jumps, we're using maximum dynamic effort method.
Mm-hmm.
So maximum dynamic effort means in the dynamic effort method, is throwing or lifting a weight at max velocity.
Mm-hmm.
So basically with the dumbbell jumps, we're throwing ourselves off the ground and catching ourselves, throwing ourselves off the ground and catching ourselves. But we're doing one jump at a time. So we're doing a jump, we'll rest about in a minute or so, do another jump. So we have to let our energy system recover, because if you watch a kid, if they come in, they jump one, don't get off the mat, they jump again, that vertical jump goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Then if they do three, it goes down. And so if they continue to do multi-jumps like that, the body's going to learn averages. And so you're going to get your average low end result instead of your maximum high end result with that single out effort.
Sure. So you're, again, kind of like avoiding track there. We need the system to be reactive. So like, we don't want to do jumps in series, because then we're trying to create more elastic, I suppose. So when you're performing those and they're kind of scaling up over time, do you find that there's just constant correlation, kind of like with the squat we're seeing here? Like there is no almost like upper ceiling to where it keeps paying dividends for them?
I think as long as that vertical jump continues to improve, you always can continue to get that sprint speed.
Sure.
I've got an online client that has trained with me out of state, which is very tough to deal with online people, because they're not in my environment, which is like a lot of people think if they're missing the reps, they're not getting better.
Sure. Where
I'm trying to get them to miss reps, because I'm trying to monitor their day 3 off of day 1 and 2 pattern, day 4 off of what 1, 2, and 3 look like, and so forth and so on. And this guy has been with me for about 2 years, and he started off at a 28.5-inch vertical on the mat, and he's jumped a 40-inch vertical on the plow mat, OVR, and other different jump devices. He jumped a 46.3 on the mat. He's 27 years old, and he also ran a 4.77 40-yard dash.
Nice.
And so he called me. He said, I'm right in the ratio, because it took him a while, because at that age, because he was also a track kid when he was in high school and stuff too. And he's like, everything makes more sense to him now that he's experienced. You have to, like we said earlier, you got to experiment or experience to understand what's really going on. And so with everything happening so fast, it's really too hard to catch up.
With obviously your system for vertical jumping has had enormous success. So I'm curious, when you are looking for these outcomes in vertical jumps, do you do any form of like technical or qualitative assessment of the jump itself?
There's different jump techniques. You can have your typical arm swing down and back. You go down, touch, and jump up, or you can do kind of like a swooping method.
Sure.
And so you got 3 different styles that you can use, and you just got to figure out which athlete kind of fits within that style. And so then we can continue to push up the non-weighted vertical. But the weighted vertical, always, if we spend too much time jumping with the weight, they may not do a non-weighted jump that day.
Yeah.
And so because it's 20 minutes later, and if they try to break, they're not going to break, at least break your weighted one, or try to. If not get within that 95% window, then move on. Yeah. But don't take that 95% window and like, oh, I checked that box. 90. No, still try to break it. But I don't even tell the kids at the gym there's a 95% window that I'm looking at.
Sure. Okay.
So if that would be like someone that's not within that environment, you would let them know, hey, if he's here and he's trying, and sometimes don't even let the athletes know what you're doing, so they don't kind of look for that endpoint, sure. Because like I think different rabbit hole with the Tendo units in the colleges and stuff, and they're squatting too fast, they end up getting a result out of it. And so sometimes with the kids, if they're at a college or whatever, and they're squatting with some type of feedback device for monitoring bar speed, if they hit the certain level, and if a kid don't want to squat today, hey man, I try to hit the effort. And so the coach would back off on their weight.
Yeah, sure.
And so that way, if you know, so hindsight, if you look at the kid and you say, I'm looking at 95%, they may look, what's the minimum I got to do to hit that? Boom, then move on to the next thing, where I'm actually not trying to look for that. I'm just, in my mind, at least hit that and move on.
This is a backtrack, so I apologize for that. But to go back to the box squat, all of these are related to just straight weight, right?
Those are safety box squat.
Yeah, but we're talking straight weight, not any accommodating resistance.
No.
Correct? So have you played around with that, and what happened if you did?
I've tried to use chains and bands with that. It's just, I usually like to squat my kids with the safety squat bar. I squat them in the monoliths. And when you choke the band around at the bottom, that's a variable, because one time, as the bands get worn, or as however that's choked on the bar that day, plays a role in how that speed's going to look on that Tendo unit. Sure. So if I'm trying to get these kids, so like if we're squatting and I want someone to squat 315 sets of 5, I'll have them write it. Everybody's got their own folder, so we're not just making up shit as we go. So I didn't print off the front side of the folder, but this is kind of what the back side just shows the results of it. And so I do everything by hand every day. And so if I want them to squat 315, if they squat the first one at 0.57, 5.3, 5.2, then a 4.8, they'd write a 5.7 over 3.
Yeah. Because
they squatted 3 5s within that set. So the next set, they may go 0.61, 5.7, 5.4, 5.3, then it's a 6.1 over 1, because they only have 1.6 within that set. And so that's how you're kind of looking back at the folder at the end of the month, them not knowing that I'm looking for that 6. So, you actually hit a 6 at 3. It was a 6.3 at 315, and your body weight was 185. Well, divide that. That's what your ratio is. And this kid said, Jared, I'm going to run 4.9. I said, no. He said, yes, I am. And I said, you'll run a 5.07 at best. And he said, there's no way. And so we brought everybody, turned the music, tried to do everything to stimulate. He did beat me because he ran a 5.05, but did not run his 4.9.
Sure.
And so I said, you're not there yet. And this other kid said he was going to run a 4.7. I said, no, you're not. I said, it's impossible. He said, you don't know who I am. I said, well, you don't know who I am. And he ended up running a 4.8 because they think they can hit this number. But there are some outliers within this ratio.
Yeah, as always.
But it's so like, it's so on point most of the time that it's scary.
Yeah.
I had a kid came from, I'm in Georgia, and I had a kid come from Birmingham, Alabama, which is like 3 hours away. Was trying to get ready for a pro day. And he stayed with a local kid, and he came in. I didn't squat or anything at first, and so I had him. I tested his 40-yard. I tried to get his combine numbers, test his 40-yard dash, his vertical, his broad jump stuff, and so I got his 40-yard dash and his body, because on the back of the folder I tracked their body weight and all their stuff. And so the next time he came in, I had him go squat, because if I got a kid for a short period of time, they're going to go safety bar, box squat, because I know 99% of the time that's going to click real quick. Sometimes with the straight bar, I may not. I need to know where I'm at, how far I'm in from that ratio. And so this kid came in next time. I wrote this number. I said, I want you to go squat 295, blah, blah, blah. And I walked away, forgot about him. And so I said, oh shit, I got to go check on this other kid. And I was talking to this other kid, and he was telling me the number. That new kid, he goes, well, the fastest I can move is to 0.6. And so I said, holy shit, I'm a genius. And so I turned off the music, and I wanted everybody, because I'm trying to teach all the kids, you got to get strength of speed, and you got to get faster.
Sure.
And so I was just really surprised that I didn't go talk to that kid, but he piped up, said the fastest I could move is to 0.6. And I just wrote his squat numbers based off his sprint speed. Yeah. So I did that the opposite of how I came up with the ratio.
Yeah.
And I've done that for a couple other kids, and it's kind of cool at the same time, but it's also frustrating because people don't know about it. And like, I'm trying to show as many results as I possibly can. Like this kid going from a 5'2" to a 4'8" with a 28-pound weight gain.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's huge.
That's a different product.
Yeah, it is.
So the bands and chains are they're screwing up your ratio because it's hard to figure out
because
what the weight really is.
And, so sometimes.
But I think also based on, if you go off the premise that the low box squat and the slow reversal is primarily working the glutes more, especially in terms of starting strength, the bands not carrying over kind of also makes sense, because if that means the load is now lighter at the bottom where the glutes have to do more of the work, they're getting less work.
The bands become more of the quarter squat.
Yeah, so like, sure, you can accelerate into the bar for longer, but if the primary benefit of this low box squat is the glutes get loads of tension and load, and then we unload the bar as we get to the bottom, it would make sense that it doesn't carry over as well.
Now, sometimes to make it, Louis would introduce new stuff in the gym and things like that to try to keep it. Like I said, it's Groundhog Day. This shit's not very fun.
Well, you're not dealing with lifters that have 10 years of training experience either.
Yeah. And so I have used chains more than bands. I used, when I first started, I did speed squat with bands and things like that. And I just got rid of the speed squat because I didn't want to give up a strength day for speed, because with the speed squat, you just work on your rate of force development. You're not really increasing your absolute strength. And I needed absolute strength increased. I need at least a minimum of 8 squat sessions per month in order to at least to try to get that 40-yard dash change. If I get 10 to 12, I'm guaranteed to get it change.
Look, I get it. A power bar is a staple of every gym, but what do you do after that? This is Dave Tate from EliteFTS, here to talk to you about specialty bars. Specialty bars are what's going to take your training to the next level. You're probably already familiar with our SS yoke bar, which every gym should have, which he's using there, which provides comfort for the squat, especially if you're a washed up meathead like myself and you can no longer grab a bar, or you have shoulder injuries, or you're just looking for variation in your training. At EliteFTS, we have specialty bars that take care of all your training needs, from an American camber press bar to fat bars, curl bars. We even have power bars. So head over to elitefts.com, toolbar, bars and weights, or blowout menu, bars and weights. So if we're to back this out, what does the training week look like?
Mondays, right now, I am there Monday through Saturday. Football season, I'm closed on Friday, open on Sunday. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday's bench, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday squat, 3 days a week. And
how many of the kids show up every time?
There are kids this week that have spring practice. They're going to school, they're lifting at school, they're going to spring practice, and they're still showing up at the gym.
All right. So it's built in that they're going to be there every day.
Yes. Yeah, I do have some of them that are like maybe a Monday, Thursday kid.
Yeah.
But your older kid, once you get older, you can't bench, because even if they're not coming every day, I'm still going to try to bench them and squat them in the same day. I'm trying to get as many bench and squat sessions per month so I can get a result on their bench and their 40-yard dash and their vertical per month. So I'm trying to get it, even though I'm getting a kid less, I'm still trying to get it to try to budge.
So optimally, you're trying to get each of those in 3 times per week.
Yeah. And
Right.
so sometimes the minimum I get's 2. And, then over time with so many kids in there, I test the last week of every month, kind of like deload, kind of not like to say that because I don't really back off on the, we just got a test day that substitutes our squat day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not getting as many squat sessions in that week. And if they test bad on Tuesday, I may let them retest Thursday. Then Saturday, it's back to the grind again because we got to continue to get those squat sessions in so we get the number to change again the next
Now,
week.
does the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday look the same?
Yes.
And the Tuesday, Thursday would look the same as well.
Yes.
So it is literally Groundhog Day.
It is terrible. Like I had this girl, she pitched for UGA. She's one of the top pitchers in the country. She's only like 5'10", 130 pounds. And the pitchers at the collegiate level that are that good are not usually that light, that short. And she came back every year after college to try to get back to where she was the next year. And she said, Jared, I hate this Groundhog Day, but I got to do it.
So you've been doing this a long time. So it's because you said you do some online stuff, but most of it's in person. When they walk through that door, can you tell if this is going to be a good athlete or not a good athlete?
Nope. That's tough. You think this sometimes if they're more of a stud coming in the gym, they don't understand the work ethic that needs to go in. So you gotta, your ultimate high people have the natural ability and they work hard.
Mm-hmm.
You got some people that have the natural ability, don't work hard, they fall short. And sometimes you don't have the people with natural ability that work hard, still fall short. So your best optimal thing is to get that person that's got both and push. That's the one thing that's easy for me is the strength.
Sure.
And so, but I've had this kid right here. This is dated 2011. He came to the gym. I never saw his parents. We put a check in the box. And this kid was so unathletic. Like on my broad jump scale at the gym, I've got it painted on the floor. And it's been there forever. And it starts at 5 feet. Because if at the start of the gym, if you couldn't jump 5 feet, I didn't want you. Mm-hmm. And I had the broad jump before I had the vertical stuff. I bought the jump mat, not for the dumbbell jump thing. I bought it to go, I was going to screw it to Louis' plyo swing to try to work on that ground contact time with the plyo swing. And I said, man, if I screw this to the plyo swing, I'm going to mess up the mat that's within the mat. So I'm going to mess up how it's done. And plus with the plyo swing, with the bands slinging you back to the thing, you're still messing up that ground contact time. Mm-hmm. And ultimately it comes out, I don't need that ground contact time because at one point we were doing depth jumps in between our squats. And then we've changed over time because of the amount of people. I've only got used to, we'd come in and jump, then we'd squat, then we'd do our accessories. Now we come in, squat, jump, then accessories. Mm-hmm. Because I don't care how long they're there. We had to, we had to start at the top of an hour. We start 4, 5, 6, or 7. And some kids are there 2 hours. But we come in on that squat day, we squat, then I don't give a shit how long you spend jumping, try to break your record. Then when you're doing your accessories, you're out of the way of everybody else. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like what Louis did when we go in and we'd do a speed squat. After that, everybody kind of dissipated. Mm-hmm. So let me clear the racks so the next group can get in. Then it kind of falls kind of like that. Mm-hmm. And so at the beginning, I had we would do depth jumps, and I've learned that when we had longer ground contact time with the depth jumps, we were actually able to jump higher instead of shorter because we're always trying to break that maximum height number. And I think years later, I read that Verkhoshansky said that you did jump higher with longer ground contact time. So, but that makes sense for what I've been trying to build over the years. I didn't know I was building is that I do need that longer ground contact time because you do have longer ground contact time in the start of a 40-yard dash as to where you in track, you're more elastic, you got less ground contact. So I didn't need to work on that plyo swing with minimum ground contact time because with sports, 33 yards or 5 seconds, there's a timing and there's a window. And so like if 33 yards or even sometimes 37 yards can still be acceleration. As far as the 40-yard dash time, like in track and field, they're saying 0 to 30 or 0 to 35 meters is acceleration. I mean, they call that their start. Then acceleration is 30 to 70. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like within this lingo of getting messed up. If you realize that track and field start is almost the first 30 meters, that's 33 yards, and you transfer that to sport. So then, hey, I need to work. Then you hear all these kids, hey, I need to work on my start. You know, you work on your start, you get stronger. You have to overcome your own inertia to get rolling.
Sure. Have you ever tried introducing jumping on softer surfaces into your program? Because obviously that will increase contact time even more and can make it even more muscular, for want of a better word. Has that ever been experimented with?
No. I've thought about getting a Tempur-Pedic mattress and stuff like back when like Louie and them would have people jumping in and out of foam.
Yeah.
But I find it like when we jump, like when we're jumping with a jump mat. When we're squatting with a Tendo.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to look and monitor these numbers to make sure we got instant feedback. Because you could take a kid and you could hook a Tendo up to them and turn around, face the opposite direction. And they're squatting maybe a 4. You turn it back to them, you squat 4. Now they learn how to push against it quicker. Like that little instant with putting the chains on a young kid, this little 8-year-old girl, I had chains on the bar with an 8-year-old girl. You're trying to teach them acceleration. And so now you're trying to, even though like we're the compensatory acceleration, you're trying to accelerate the bar as fast as you can, although it's not moving very fast. You know, there's a large explosion within the muscle because you're trying to, you got intramuscular coordination, trying to coordinate and fire everything to get this one job done instead of a systematic, like the Hennon and Size principle, where you got your fat, you're slow, you're intermediate, then you're fast. So instead of that sequential firing order, that's why I'm still using the brief max on the young kids so that we're still getting the optimal discharge frequency with the young kids so that they're learning the intramuscular coordination at that young age. And the stronger you can get a kid before puberty, I also have kids that have optimal hormone levels because they're so young. So I'm basically training kids that are on drugs.
Yeah, sure.
Because they got their optimal hormone level. And so the stronger I can get a kid before puberty, it's like a mushroom cloud. The more it bowls over once puberty starts setting in. So I'm basically wiring our house before the sheetrock goes up. Also, too, with these young kids.
I'm curious. I mean, see, we've got a whole system of coefficients and stuff here for the lower body and the 40-yard dash and the vertical jump, which is super cool. Do you have anything, or what does the process look like then if you've got someone like a pitcher or a bowler or someone whose primary output is upper body force related? Like, what are the metrics that you're using there? Or what does an upper body day even look like? Like, we kind of talked about the lower body day there, but what does the upper body section of this system look like?
The same.
Okay, sure.
Even for your baseball pitchers.
Yeah.
To a point, I had a kid, he was a baseball pitcher. He went from running a 5 flat to a 4.57. And I wouldn't even focus on his squat as much, but I still squatted with the rest of just like everybody else, treat everybody the same, see what the hell happens. If they play baseball, if they're a pitcher only, I don't usually test a 40-yard dash because I'm trying to eliminate some of these. Like the other day I had so many 40-yard dashes to test at 4:00. I was like, holy shit, it took an hour. And then I still got to get to vertical. I got to get project. Well, 5:00 shows up next. And so I just sent them all home. I said, we'll just get this next time. And so it can be really busy because you got those, and I let them run 2 or 3. I'm trying to get them their best number that day. So the next time we could beat that best number, and next time we could beat it, it's just a grinding process. But I had a pitcher, the American College of Sports Medicine correlated pitching velocity with jump height. So for every 1 inch increase in vertical jump, they had a 1/2 inch increase in throwing velocity. Now, I did not measure that myself at the time, but in one semester at this local high school, I had several kids, 4 or 5 kids, improve throwing speed 8 miles per hour in a semester. And so I don't know if the one kid that went from a 5 flat to a 4.57 ended up going and pitching at a university. I got him throwing 95 from 88 to 95 without anything special. You know, you got that, or people will shit on dynamic correspondence. You're doing all this, but it looks nothing like the sport itself. That's kind of like when we're squatting, we're jumping. It doesn't look like running, but it's directly improving our running performance. So I'm trying to find if I can get this that looks nothing like the sport, because everybody wants to be sport specific. That's really slowing them down because everything sport specific does not even fall into any of the tension ranges. Maybe the repetition, but it's too light. And so when he got to the university, they said he couldn't pitch. I mean, he couldn't bench anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Just like you said,
which is pretty common, right?
Yeah, it's. And I said, if they would just teach you how to bench, it'd be okay. And they want to use dumbbells. That's terrible. The more you have to balance something, the less neuromuscular effort goes into it because you got a stability factor now that we got to worry about. So now you're losing some of your intermuscular coordination. So now we can't get the body to fire in unison. Well, when you're pitching, it's got to fire in unison. The whole body's got to turn and operate to get that job done. So like sometimes at the gym, we bench with our butt up. I don't care how they get the weight up as long as the weight goes up.
Sure.
Because we're training like, if we got to go to a competition, I know we got to keep our head, feet, but it's different because I'm trying to, within football, baseball, your whole body has to come in unison. So like if you look at the jammer arms, like on some of these machines, it's basically hips, benching with your hips off the bench or benching with thrusting it up, same thing, except for you're not able to monitor or max that load out over time to see if you're actually directly improving any type of performance with it.
Sure.
And so with the pitcher, he went from throwing 95 to 92 miles an hour. And he came back to the gym, quit played somewhere. He went back, got his bench back to where it was. Then he went back to school. Then he started throwing 95 again. Then he tried to figure out how he was going to work out outside of baseball workouts.
Sure.
So with your bench, are you pausing that to try to simulate the box squat?
Some kids I do and some kids I don't. So sometimes we'll go through a pause bench phase. Whatever weapon they choose, whether they're going to squat with a safety squat bar, whatever they're going to bench with a straight bar, whether they're going to front, whatever they're going to do. So I don't have everybody box squat all the time. It just depends on, I need to build some type of structural stability to where we're learning how to have some type of reversal strength. Because with the box, if you get a kid that's too comfortable, or usually a beginner, if they've never had any weight room experience, I will regular squat them first because they just learn how to plop on the box and don't learn any control.
Yeah, sure.
Where most of your high school kids can box squat, but then box squat is you're trying to get the legs to twitch off the bottom so that we can get to neuromuscular firing.
Sure.
And it's just, depending on what we got going on, everything's depends, Sure.
So with your bench press training, are we looking at improving this same kind of things? Like you're not looking at the 0.6 meters per second with there? Is it just weight on the bar as such?
It's more of that failure range.
Sure. Okay.
Like that one kid that was benching 250. He was benching 250. I had him 4 sets of 5. He went 5, 5, 4, 4. And then he went to college for a semester, and he was a freshman. So freshman's usually your developmental. He said, Jared, we worked our asses off. We worked out. I said, I warned you. And he came back, he could bench 225 for 5 when he was able to get 250 for 5. So he had a 25-pound drop. And I don't think they're benching enough to. But the reason we bench, I see it correlate to swing speed. I see it correlate to golf club head swing speed, lacrosse, and also baseball throwing velocity. Now, there is a point to where I do have a pitcher. If he can bench 315 to 335, then you got your diminishing returns because there's no dynamic effort exercise with that. To where unless you pause bench him, you're getting. But at some point, that's not going to correlate as much as the jump's going to correlate to sprint speed. But then you got dispersion at the vertical jump and the sprint speed like that. That's why if you look on the chart, it's got their vertical jump. And it's got the 40-yard dash times, but it's not, the ratios are all off.
Sure. Okay.
Now, if they're being tested, and I assume the bench is the same way, it's 3 weeks and then there's a test. Is there a wave of those 3 weeks of what the percentages are for the bench and the squat leading up to that test?
It don't really wave. It's just more of a straight linear.
Sure.
And so like if I need a kid to bench 315, I know if I get him to bench 265 sets of 5, I know he's going to bench 315. And so depending on where they are is kind of where I start at. So like if I want to start with a brief maximum tension to 85%, I'll give them 3 sets of 4 and a set of 5. And so if I got a kid, it's going to go 4, 4. So they have to write in paper on their folder. All right. So you may have a kid that goes 4, 4, 4, 5. You may have a kid that goes 4, 4, 4, 4, and you may have a kid that goes 4, 4, 4, 3. Then it's easy for that kid. That's probably right about that kid, and this kid needs to be backed off a little bit. And so then you're monitoring. That's day 1. Next time day 2, based off this pattern. Day 3. So I'm trying to manipulate these patterns based off where they are. Everything kind of falls within a 5% window, and so you can make 5% jumps with 2 reps. So I know if you hit 265 for 3, I know you can do 250 for 5. And so if you've had a day before where I gave you 250, a set of 3, and maybe 2 sets of 4, and you got that 4, I may try to see if you get 265 for 3 the next workout, may do 245, 3 and 265. That way I know if I could drop where I got it. That tells me which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you got 265 for 5, but you were only doing 240 and 245, now I know at 260 I can get you to 250 for 5. But and if you don't, you're not locked in. And I let them dictate the rest breaks. I don't have them like on a whistle. So you may bench 6.5 minute rest break. You may do 4, and I may do 2 or 2.
All right, so you may be increasing the weight, but at the same time, you may also just be increasing the reps.
Yes. And so I'm trying to still with most of the time be within that 3 to 5 rep range. And so I know, so like if this kid, that kid that did 250, he got 5, 5, 4, 4. That next workout, I may give him 250, 3 sets of 3, and see if he can get 270 for 3. Because I know he's already got 5. So let's see if I can push that threshold just a little bit more. And what happens is, they may not always make the reps, but they're failing and they're giving me maximum effort.
No, but go into that a little bit more, because I can see where a lot of coaches will screw that up because they're going to jump too aggressively, where maybe all they need to do is to, you know, change one of the sets lower with a couple more reps to be able to play that way, because you're orchestrating this
Yes.
for their success, you know, because you don't want them missing reps on every set, right?
Yeah.
Because then you got to back it way down to build it back up again.
I should have brought some folders.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying, though, because I'm sure you've talked to coaches that they want to increase it too fast, the weight.
Yeah, and they don't know.
Fast.
I think, like, if someone sees the bar move so quick, hey, no, they if 275 moves quick, they may jump you to 295, and 295 may crush you.
Yes.
I always still fall within that rule of thumb. If they're at that level, they can make 15-pound jumps, or should be able to make 15-pound jumps. So 100-pound people, I had a little kid. This kid's 8 or 9. And it's amazing how this 5% stuff happens at this kid even at the lowest level of strength. I had him doing 45 pounds, sets of 5, just the bar, because that's all he could do. And I jumped him to 50 pounds, and he could only get 1 rep. And so, and then I put, because he's not 5, I can't make 5-pound jumps with him because he's below that 5% threshold. And so I've got 1-pound plates, and I put 47 pounds on there, and he got it for 3 reps. And so, you know, he went from 45 to 5 to 50 for 1, but 47, I was just still blown away. Even a little kid with that strength level still optimizes that 5% jump window.
Yeah, sure.
And so then, even when you're going to competition, whatever they've done in the gyms, or second lift, first one we get on the board, middle one we may have not have done, but at least we're on the board, and the third one we're going for an all out.
Sure.
It's really like, even when you get to 400, you can make 20-pound jumps, 500, 25-pound jumps. And so I've had a kid squat 501 at 161-pound body with a 46-inch vertical.
Nice.
So, you know, like I'm trying to get rid of that stigma, like that weight room shit, to where you still have to be strong, but you need to be strong this way.
Yeah.
And not, however, I told a kid the other day, I said, I'm not impressed with how much you can squat. I'm just impressed if it transfers.
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help. So when you break it out of that first movement, because these kids need to put muscle on too, right? So with these movements that we've talked about so far, yeah, you're going to put on a little bit of muscle, but that's not really what it's intended to do, is to build the maximum and explosive strength. When you get to those accessories, where are you building? Oh, I guess when you're training 6 days a week, there's going to be built-in volume, but what are you doing for that part?
After we squat, we jump. So those are, you're going to do that. You're doing that no matter what.
Yes.
Then I've learned myself, you have to do single leg work because it helps with your adductors.
Well, let's spin that back real quick just for the people, because the most optimal thing to do would be to jump first, then lift.
Yep.
But you already explained why you do that, because you got to function. You got to get a weight room running.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just putting this out there for the
sure.
people that are going to say, oh, no, you need to do, you know what I'm saying? We get it. We understand, but live in the real world and see how things really work.
Well,
so
yeah, you can also use the squat first as post-activation potentiation too.
yeah.
If you wanted to spin it back on them that way.
Yes. So you get through the jumps. Now you're into
You're into our accessories and
accessory,
stuff.
yeah.
So I try to do a single leg work, then I try to do a hamstring at the hip, then a hamstring at the knee motion. Because you got your hamstring across your hip, and if you just did just GHRs all the time, or GHDs, whatever people want to call them, or leg curls or banded leg curls, you're only getting that function at the knee. So you're not really getting as much direct at the hip. So like with your 45 hyper, your back extensions and things like that as we'll do. Or sometimes I'll get some kids do pull throughs, but sometimes they screw around kids doing pull throughs.
So how do you teach them the effort there? Because it's with this RPE shit, however we want to say it, right? You have to anchor. Well, we can anchor the heavier stuff based upon percentages, right? But when you get to the accessory work, the closer to failure, the better it's going to be if you're looking to build muscle mass, right? But you can walk up to any of these kids doing one of these auxiliary exercises or accessories and start, verbalizing to them, and they end up doing 8 more reps than what you have prescribed, which they're leaving a lot of the effort on the table.
Yeah.
So you need to anchor what that effort looks like there, because you're not using Tendo units and shit like that for them to be able to know. It's basically their work ethic that has to come through and know how hard to train those things. And some things like a glute ham raise, you're going to go to failure pretty quick. It's kind of like tricep close grips. When you miss, but back raises, you can do those forever. Weighted ones may be a little bit different. So how do you anchor that effort that they need to put into those things? Because that's also another thing. You're not going to be able to watch them do that much, because you got to focus on the main thing.
Yeah.
They're on their own.
Yeah. That's kind of like when Louis is with you squatting back in the day, you're already squatting at the, everybody's squatting together with Louis right there in front of you. And that's it. Where the fuck Louis go? It's almost like Michael Fahey's been to the gym a couple of times, and he's just so amazed at how it kind of operates like that Westside environment. Because I'm over there, I'm more of a consultant to the kids. I'm monitoring these numbers, checking. Okay, look, we need to be advised. Okay, no, you need to go do this. Why is he doing that? Because he needs to do this and things like that after the main 2 things. And so depending on the accessory and the kid, with maybe a 45 hyper with a cambered bar on your back, I may go 6 reps. If you're getting 6 reps easy, you need to add load, because because at the back of their mind, they know I'm going to test this broad jump. They know I'm going to.
Yeah, but do they know that these things have significance? Because these are tracked.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like they know their back raise is going to have this direct correlation.
The only thing that they know will have the direct correlation would be the tricep press downs. And so,
kind of off a fucked up thing.
If you take a kid, like, I've screwed myself up because I've taken my incline from a 365 incline to a 405 incline, which is doing incline and tricep press downs. And so, like, for our main bench accessory, we'll go bench, we'll incline, or close grip chain floor press. And so with like that kid, I got to go from 185 to 210, went from 185 to 315 in 5-6 month range. But we don't change that. I would say 6 reps, sometimes 5 on it. And sometimes with the accessories, if they're really cooked, I'll back off on that and let them, instead of doing 185 for sets of 6 on close grip chain floor press, maybe do 155 today. Sure. And so I ain't pushing these top 2 things no matter what.
Okay.
And then everything else can auto-regulate based off how they are that day. Yeah. But if they're coming like after a football practice, or you got some of these kids coming, our brains know what 275, 315, and everything else looks like, but our bodies don't. And so if you're out there squatting, if you're coming in after practice, normally if I want you to do 405 for sets of 3, and I may just have you do 365 for sets of 2 after practice and get the same tendo numbers because I'm getting the same muscular tension because the body don't know what the weight is, only we do. So we're the only ones getting depressed about it, but I'm still getting the optimal discharge because I know what that speed is.
Sure.
But like the accessories, and sometimes if they're really like after football, they may come squat, jump, and leave, or they may come bench, press down and leave, or bench. It's really hard to get them to bench and do a floor press after they bench, after practice, after school, and all the other stuff.
So just to clarify, on the upper body day, there's no jump equivalent after the bench press.
Correct. That's kind of the hardest thing for me to find. What can I equate to that, and how can I measure that?
Yeah, of course. But one, you're getting these increases in like pitching speed without doing upper body specific, like incline plyo push-ups, med ball. No, that would be all the stuff you would expect to see in the upper body equivalent of that lower body session, right? But you're getting this carryover without that, which I think is really interesting.
Like I had this football player, he was a quarterback, and I don't get your baseball pitchers and your quarterbacks, they're kind of your weird ones because they don't like to push because I've always been told not to push.
Yeah.
Where if you got your outfielder, why can they bench and throw the ball from outfield all the way to home and you can't bench as a pitcher?
Yeah, sure.
And so you got your field guys that are strong, more of your strength athletes, but you got your pitchers and your quarterbacks that are more baby athletes. But I had a quarterback, he increased his throwing speed in 2 months, 6 miles an hour. Just because like I said, like when you bench, you're using your pecs, you're using your rotator cuff, you're using your biceps, you're using all the muscles involved in the biomechanics of overhead throw.
Have you messed with med balls?
No. I've had some, the pitchers and the med balls for that gets a lot tricky because now you got to factor in that they're already throwing something themselves too. And so if I could, baseball's so hard because you got plyo balls and you got other balls that are like plyo ball. One's squishy and one's more hard. And so the feel in your hand throws off what you're doing. And so I was trying to find out that 5% wave for that med ball throw so that we can actually put together a program kind of like our jumps for a throwing athlete. And you just don't have, you got to have a lot of them so that the smaller group of the lot gives you that result. So then that group can then expand.
Could you, in theory, could you do something like an incline plyo push-up where instead of the load, the progression model is the height of the box? And you somehow measure speed, the propulsion off the box becomes your metric there perhaps, and the box height would be the equivalent of adding weight to the dumbbell
So just
jump.
do a Paul's incline press with tendo.
Okay, sure. So that would be like, so in a way it is kind of there, just indirectly.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that may be something I could try when I go back because I monitor that incline, but I guess the best way to attack this so that you do take the people that don't throw and get the result.
Yeah.
And so then once I got to find that result pattern. Now I could pass this on to my softball girls and my baseball players and my quarterbacks and the pitchers.
Sure.
And so that may be something that you've sparked to when I get back, do an incline tendo and see if there's some type of ratio with optimal throwing speed with the body weight, but it's going to be, that's tough because you got some kids that are, even if they're fast, they still kind of fit within that ratio. But then you're also going to have your kids that look like they can't throw 50. Like I had a kid, he went from 45 miles, a 7-year-old boy, just by increasing his bench, not anything baseball. I'm trying to stay away from the sport and trying to get the sport result as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I had a 7-year-old went from 45 miles an hour to 54 miles an hour throwing speed. You get a 7-year-old kid throwing 54 miles an hour, he's roasting people on that baseball field.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now you got bench press that also correlates with swing speed. So now I had a girl, I finally got her to bench 135. I said, once I get you past 135, you'll start hitting home runs. And she hit a home run. She's not skipped the gym unless the softball season since.
Sure. Do you think, in general, as you mentioned there, you're actually almost trying to stay unspecific to the sport?
Yes.
I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all. But do you think that is why your athletes are lasting longer in the system? Because a lot of other systems are hell-bent on specificity to a very high degree, but then you run into overuse and you don't end up, how do I word this? You
Getting
don't
strong.
end up, yeah, you don't end up developing the stuff that the sport doesn't develop because you're too specific all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And another Lou, like I told Louis back in the day, with baseball pitchers or throwing athletes pulling their obliques.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that, he said, how's it? Then all of a sudden it starts popping up all over the place that this was happening. Well, now we have epidemic, all these UCL tears. So all these kids are having Tommy John surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that they got the optimal speed.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not have, and they got power, but they're not doing that in the middle thing, that repetition method to hold that together. So now they're breaking down because now they're getting this arm to throw in 95 miles an hour, but they don't have the structural integrity to hold that force that they now haven't been able to produce.
Yeah. Is there any rotational work in your programming? Because obviously you mentioned the obliques, and for a pitcher or a baseball player, whatever, like we can understand the need there, but you're finding that isn't necessary, at least at this stage.
Yeah, at this stage, I'm not. We don't do Russian twists. We don't do windshield wipers where we're on our back. We don't do anything for. I mean, it's just I had to.
Is there any core work?
We do cable abs, which we do weighted sit-ups, so that everything's
just basic.
Yeah, so we'll do straight leg cable sit-ups to where we can monitor if a kid's doing sets of 12. We're using the repetition method for that instead of you'll cook your hip flexors because they'll start using their rectus femoris to try to sit up with the weight instead of trying to really focus and hone in on the abs. And so when we're doing our cable abs, we're going back because they tie in here and they tie in at the pelvis. So as we're going back, we're stretching our abs out like an accordion, and then we're trying to crunch in as hard. So now we're letting the abs work just like they would. And you'd be surprised, your serratus anterior and your rectus abdominis, how well developed that gets. Just that. So we're making the muscles strong. And as you make this muscle strong and you do the action, then you got a better result, because you don't necessarily have to do the action like that rotational stuff if you're making your obliques, which is responsible for rotation. So if you can indirectly make that strong without that sport specific stuff, I think will hold back everything, because you're more focused on the rotation and this and that without focus on what the bottom line is, strength. And if strength wasn't so important, drugs wouldn't be banned.
I got to ask, when you're dealing with the athletes who are in season, like you say you got a baseball pitcher comes to you and they're throwing whatever number of pitches every day, their shoulders are just wrecked. How do you adapt the programming for that? Because I'm sure that happens, right? Like, oh, coach, I'm at summer camp and I'm pitching for 3 hours a day. Like, how do we pivot there?
It really messes their bench up the next day. So after they throw, and if they throw the day before, they're gonna have to squat next day.
Sure. Okay.
Because you'd be surprised. Throwing will mess up their bench. So then I'm not getting my bench numbers. I want my numbers.
Yeah, of course.
And so then once we kind of figure out the rotation, like sometimes if you got a pitcher, if he pitches every 6 days, you got to kind of factor in how are we going to roll this around. It's like, and so then, but usually if I've got someone that has made it to like the professional level like that, we can communicate more instead of, because a lot of people want to walk in like, hey, Jared, what's the program? Well, you're the program. What result do you want?
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm just trying to, like that kid, we just focused on lower body, trying to get him ready to get drafted. And so all we did was just a very minimal, because what do I need to get? What are you here for? You're not, it's not like a franchise facility where you kind of walk in, everybody does the same damn thing. You got something specific you want, you got something specific you want. Hey, we need this speed number. And I'm like, holy shit. Okay. But good thing is the MLB was 30 yards. And so I know sub 40, I'm trying to be the best strength person as far as getting these numbers without the bullshit, because I know that ratio is not lying. And once you see it and so many other people see it, they're really feeling it. And so now this kid ended up getting drafted first round by the Yankees because we squatted and freaking jumped. I just completely changed that kid, first round pick. Now I don't have to worry about college, because within baseball, if you go to college for baseball and you forego college, the baseball league will pay for college later on down the road. So it's not like football to where you're just giving up everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he said he'll just figure it out. Now he don't have to figure it out. And then the strength and conditioning coordinator for the Yankees called and said, he's got the best force plate numbers in the league, and he's got the fastest time in the entire organization. I didn't say league, but within their organization, his force plate numbers and his sprinting best. And so then we send him home. He said, Jared, we sent him home with this packet and kind of do what you do and take some of our stuff into consideration, and because he's already got the best numbers out there. And well, for me, I can't be complacent. I can't. And so about halfway through, when he came back home, they wanted me to send what have I been doing? Like, what the hell is this kid? It's our number one pick. We've got a lot of money invested in this kid. What are we doing? And so I sent him a screenshot of the folder and just didn't think anything about it. And he gets back in early spring this year, and he called me and said he thought, because the entire off season they didn't kind of do what I was doing, but when they got back, he said, Jared, out of nowhere, we started box squatting and dumbbell jumping. Which I thought was funny because they're seeing that these numbers, because his exit velocity was up significantly. His force plate numbers were up. Everything was up because I didn't want to be complacent with it. Like, I think sometimes people are scared to hurt these kids too.
Sure.
Because our body's lazy and it does not want to adapt. So when we're trying to force adaptation, you're going to have like SI joint issues, maybe pop a rib head out or things like that. And if you know what that is and it can be fixed, it's not a big deal. But if you get someone that does not know or understand what's going on, then it makes it a little harder to get that thing done.
Sure. Out of curiosity, that coordinator you're talking to, did he believe the program was as simple as what you showed him on the folder? Because I could imagine him thinking, like, what's the secret sauce that you're not showing here?
That's what I get a lot from a lot of people. What's Jared hiding?
Yeah.
It's just very minimum stuff repeated over and over again. 3 days a week. Like if I look at like this girl, she went to visit this university for softball, and she goes, Jared, is this even real? She showed me a list of 12 different exercises in the same day. I'm like, how is that even possible? And so in my world, it's like they're trying to do too much to get one. If you just condense and do these little things good, a lot of this other stuff will get much better. And so it's just almost like once I get a few baseball players doing like a throwing program, or like what I'm going to do is take the kids who don't throw, see if I can improve a non-throwing kid's throwing speed without throwing.
Yeah.
And so just to see, but then you get on the other side of the fence where you got these people with these 20 different exercises. If you got that number of exercises, how do you know what is and what's not working?
Yeah.
It's all about eliminating variables. Once you get these few things working for you, then you could add. It's almost like making a pizza. Athlete training is like making a pizza or having a recipe. You got to get this down. Once you get this down, now you can put this in. Now we can do our cherry on top or add anchovies or pepperonis or whatever to our pizza. But if we don't have this major foundation, this dough down, all the other shit's not going to stick around.
You mentioned doing a knee dominant and hip dominant hamstring exercise in the lower day, which it's obviously makes a lot of sense. Is there an upper body equivalent there in terms of the back or pulling work, or do you find that that's not really needed?
We don't do any pull-ups. If I do have a throwing athlete like a baseball, I do find that when they do improve their chin-ups or pull-ups, that their throwing speed also increases there. But I don't know if it's a combination of the pull-ups with the bench. So there's still some muddy water there because I didn't eliminate the one thing I know that works, which is the bench.
Sure. So you don't know if it adds anything, but it doesn't hurt, I guess.
The lats with the baseball and stuff, you hear it stabilizes the shoulder and helps with structural integrity. And so, or structural balance, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like, but we do it anyway.
So if I'm a running back or someone who's a sprinting or jumping based athlete, would I be doing pull-ups and things like that in the program? So none of
we do lat pull downs, may do some pull-ups, but it's not really I didn't bring I should have brought more stuff, but it's just very basic. And just trying to, if I had you once a week, I may have to do more in a day. But I'm trying to get this done 3 days a week because I find once they fall below, like if they only squatted 6 times that month, that 40-yard dash is not moving.
Sure.
And so I know that, and if I, for bench or whichever way you want to go with it, we don't come in and we bench. We flat bench Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We don't bench one day, incline one day, floor press the next day. We may bench, incline, and we'll bench and incline the same day, or bench and floor press the same day. Then we break down to our triceps and our accessory work after that. Sure. So there's 2 bench movements. Depending on the kid, close grip chain floor press kind of gets messy because all the kids leave the chains on the floor. I've got 7 racks in a row, 2 benches, and a 3rd bench in the back, and I got 2 monoliths, and chains can get. Jared, you need a floor press. It'd be nice if we can make a floor press rack to where I can just have somewhere the kids can just go do floor press, because that when we do floor press, I can show you how we set it up and everything. We do 1 to 2 fingers on smooth, but we got 2 chains on each side, and then we start adding weight. You got kids that can do 2 chains on each side with bench 315.
Yeah, sure.
And I think I've had like 4 kids squat 600 plus, and I've had like 17 high school kids bench 405 plus.
Yeah.
I had a high school junior 190. He bent the one that squatted 625. He squatted. He did 405 for 2 as a high school junior. I've had 3 high school juniors rep 405 for 2.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially for me. Sorry to backtrack a little bit with the backward. I think that's just super interesting. If you said that to the average coach, especially if you're talking about like baseball pitchers and throwers, they'd be like, "Oh, so their shoulders are going to like first off, you're benching 3 days a week. That's like kind of heresy for a start. And then you add in, oh, we're also not really doing any direct back work. Like they're going to be adamant that their shoulders are in bits, like within months. But you're not seeing that, which I think is just really interesting.
Yeah, and you get like these baseball pitchers that come back at the professional level, and they're still wanting to come back and bench because they've seen some type of drop that I've not seen because I'm not them.
Yeah.
So where's if I'm making in my mind, if I'm making all the muscles involved in a biomechanics of overhead throw stronger, where am I going wrong? Like I think with the people with the landmine pressing and all that stuff, the load's too light to create the stress or the tension to create strength. So they're doing an action, but they're not really getting anything out of it. Because you can have people, all right, speaking of this missing rep stuff, I had a girl who was coming to me. She said she wants to do powerlifting. Okay. You just, boy. So she came to me with a 19-year-old girl. So she should be stronger than what she is, but you just kind of get what you got. Cause I had a 9-year-old girl squat 121 at 60-pound body weight. And so I got this 19-year-old girl. I don't know how much she weighed. She squatted 120. Next month, she squatted 140, and the next month, she squatted 165. So we're showing progress per month. Okay. But she goes, Jared, I don't mean to come at this wrong, but can we just lower the load so I can make my reps and get stronger? I said, you've gone from 120 to 165, but I really get tired of getting burnt out. I said, it's not the reps that makes you stronger. It's the tension. I said, it's the tension. And so I said, okay, I'll show you. Roughly, we're squatting around 200 reps per month. Next month, I had her squat 350 reps, about 150 reps more than she was doing. She came back in, her squat max went down to 160. She started crying in the gym. And I said, why do I have to teach? Why can't you just listen? I'm trying.
How did she feel throughout that? Her squat volume's gone up 70% or did she also feel worse, or was she like, oh no, I'm going to do well here? Like, this has been going well.
She could not wait to max because she thought, it's in their brain that they're going to, I told you it's not the reps, it's the tension. And so, I said, if you want me to, I'll do the same thing to your bench. And everybody likes that bench. So, no, Jared, please don't touch my bench. I said, I can do it. I said, I can make you weaker or stronger because I've already given you this dose. So like, like with the repeated effort method, you can give that to someone and they're all of a sudden going to hit a plateau because it becomes insufficient and increasing strength. And so once you expose them to the maximum effort, brief maximum tension method, you've given them a higher dose. So like your repeated effort method almost could be like a beer. Your maximum effort method is a little stronger, so it's like some bourbon. So you give someone some bourbon over and over and over again, they're going to build up a tolerance to where now if you come back and give them that beer, they're going to lose that stimulus and everything's going to drop. So that's kind of how the only thing I could come up to think about how to kind of
that analogy.
To put in perspective for people that don't really understand what we're talking about, because it's really amazing how people don't understand these numbers. And I said, Lou, why don't people care results? I don't give a shit what they care about. I said, Lou, why? I was trying to figure out why, because I'm talking these numbers and I'm trying to show, look, this kid in 2011, September 2011, he was ran a 5.14 and a 5.17 40-yard dash. September of 2012, so a year later, he ran a 4.57 and a 4.62. So went from a 5.1 to a 4.5. Mm-hmm. He went from a 30-inch vertical, a 30.7 to a 42.3. So went about 12 inches in the vert, and we're 0.6 of a second faster in a 40-yard dash, and he went from 190 to 205 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's a significant different character, especially if you're trying to build a whole team. Mm-hmm. Look at how much power that kid's got. I didn't at this time. I didn't even track their bench, mm-hmm. And so like on the back of these results things, you can see 40. I test the 20, the 40, the vert, the broad, the bench. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I test the squat, but you see right there, it did, but not there, mm-hmm. not well there. I don't know why I tested that kid like that, but sometimes they're not tested on that squat, sure. And it may depending on which athlete that wants. Mm-hmm. Maybe the lineman wants to see that, which their 40-yard dash don't matter as much as everybody else's. But if you still get them stronger off the box, they accelerate, so they're going to have good 10, good 20, and so forth and so on.
I want to ask like this. You're talking about the handwritten notes, the individual folders, and all this type of thing. How much time goes in behind the scenes for you here with the analytics of this program? Because, this program, inverted commas, looks simple on the surface level, but there's a lot of analytics that runs in the background behind that simple preface, right? So how much of your time actually goes into looking at these scorecards, deciding what the next session looks like and that type of thing, which is, not to sound derogatory, might be the bit that other coaches aren't doing or are half-assing.
That's what I'm only at the gym. Everybody makes, I don't work a lot. Mm-hmm. I got to, because I don't deal with general population because they're not helping me. Mm-hmm. I want my numbers. And so I'm not going to dilute what I'm trying to accomplish mm-hmm. by and I don't even have, I've got online training, and I've not even opened that up since January. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have that extra stuff. I don't have, I've got that jump book. It's been out since January, and people message me all the time. I don't need that extra stuff. I'm at the gym. And so with at the gym, I start at 4, 5, 6, and 7. When my college kids start coming back this month, I'm gonna have to open about 3. And then when summer hits, I'm gonna have to have morning and afternoon to dilute so many of the people. And so with me right now, looking to see what they've done, it does not take a lot of time for me to, it's me and I've got one other employee, mm-hmm. and she kind of helps me with the younger kids and the girls, sure, because she's a female. So I write numbers for everybody. So everybody's got on the other side of this folder, it's their number, and I'm looking at their patterns and everything. So I've done it for so long that I can just sit here and boom, boom like that. And some people come in just to watch me write in the folders, but I'll go up there to the gym sometime during the day before people get there. So I get, before I came here, I had to do today's folders because I'm not there. Mm-hmm. And so that stack of folders was like that. And so I did today's folders, and for the people who's coming back, I did yesterday's folders and today's folders. Mm-hmm. And so and for today's folders, yesterday, the people coming back to back days, I did their sticker for yesterday and today. And so then all the people, how we have it is a system to where I've got a basket of 6. So they stick their folder in Monday. They stick their folder in whatever day they're coming back. And if they don't come back that day, they go to, I call the slacker stack. And so the numbers so that sticker's already written in. Mm-hmm. We're just going to retransfer those numbers with a different accessory stuff and paste it over that way. I don't have to worry. It kind of saves time doing that because it's already been written in by me. So we can just, so like with Emily there now, she can just kind of plug and play. Sure. Because I've already done most of everybody's yesterday was already taken care of. Now there's going to be some people that in the slacker stack that may show up today, but their number's already been written in. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I'll go up there during the daytime and get that stuff taken care of, where I don't have any distractions. Yeah. And if I wait, I can't go at 3:00 in the gym open at 4 because someone's going to pop up early and they're going to want to talk. Then that's going to slow me down on I like to go up there, get my stuff done in my zone, mm-hmm. and be done with it. Yeah. And so I've just been doing it for so long, I can figure out. And you also learn, being that I taking care of everybody too, I've learned each individual's adaptation. Okay, well, I know this kid like Jaden's not going to be able to do this because I've seen this. Sure. And so then you start knowing everybody, and they're pretty amazed. Jared, how do you remember everybody's name? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But even this kid, look how slow this was. 6 flat. Then he jumped to a 5.6, 5.6, and it stayed at 5.6 probably 2 months in a row because it's a huge jump at first.
Yeah.
And then it went to a 5.4, then a 5.3, then they quit coming a lot. Sometimes these kids like that, the kid never came back ever again.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because just like that one kid that left because I wasn't giving him speed training.
Yeah.
I'm giving you speed results, but not doing the speed training. And that's kind of gets frustrating too, because they're not really, they'll disappear because they think they have to be doing that when I'm actually giving them the concrete evidence that this is actually working. And so this person right here was extremely slow. And a 7.8, a 7.7, a 7.3, a 7.2, and a 6.8. Those were all done by box squatting. Then I went back to regular squat and went to a 7 flat, regular squat again, a 7.1, and then went back to box squat, it dropped back down to a 6.9. And that's funny because this person's only 5'2". And so sometimes with the people under 5'8", they may not follow in the ratio, but sometimes it's so individualistic that you just have to kind of play with it to figure out which ones are getting what you're trying to throw out. And so
with all that though, you still have the administrative crap that comes around with having a business. So when's that done?
As it shows up. Yeah, because it's go more in detail on what you would like.
Well, you got to pay the rent.
Yep.
You know, if your athlete numbers drop too much, you can't pay the rent. So you got to be bringing in new athletes, or is that now just basically you don't even have to worry about it because of the referrals that are pulling it in?
Yeah, I don't even have to worry about it. My rent's automatically pulled out of the account. Everything's just pretty blessed at this level to where it's, because you got so many of the local people that when I started the gym, we were in between 2 counties. And so when I mapped it out, I put the furthest high school in this county, the furthest high school in this county, boom, dead center. And so, and our area's we got a lot of Delta employees and a lot of Chick-fil-A corporate people too, down with that area, private schools and things like that.
What would, to kind of close this out, what's the best way people can find you?
Explosive Mechanics on Instagram. I get DMs on there. I don't have the notifications turned on, so I always don't, but usually email or that, and people that send ask me questions so I can try to help. And I just take their questions from email and I may hold on for a little bit. Then I just do a podcast to try to talk about, so everybody else can try to learn and just not, so if someone asks me questions, I'll just build these questions and I'll just get on, shoot a podcast. So that way, everybody that's trying to follow or trying to learn kind of these numbers, I just trying to do it that way.
So you're seeing them all?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll put all the links in the descriptions. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity and you hosting this and you being who you are, because if it wasn't for Louis wouldn't, I credit you for putting Louis out there, because after y'all's, because it took you a while to understand what Louis was doing too. Then I think, in my mind, once you understand what Louis was trying, you're like, holy shit, Louis, we got to get this out. And so I think you're the biggest driver in the industry, and I just really appreciate it and everything you do. And I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate you coming out and wrap this up, and we're done.
All right. Thanks, guys.